At Citi Field in New York, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball today, and the Mets play the Los Angeles Dodgers. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. Visit the Hyundai Summer Clearance event today for incredible deals on the 2015 Hyundai Sonata. By Verizon Fios, now there's a totally new way to customize your TV only from Verizon Fios. By Honda, great deals are at the Honda Summer Clearance event. By Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on Dunkin'. By the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales event for a limited time only. See your Lexus dealer. And by Six Flags Great Adventure. Save big on Six Flags Great Adventure tickets at sixflags.com. Today at Citi Field, one of the best pitching matchups you're going to see in a long time. The top two in the league go head-to-head. Zack Greinke and his long scoreless streak against the Mets All-Star Jacob deGrom. And runs should be at a premium this afternoon at Citi Field. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you today as the Mets wrap up their four-game series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Mets won last night. The Dodgers have taken 2 of 3 in the series so far. In an all-star pitching matchup today, Jacob deGrom, who has been just marvelous for the Mets over his last 11 starts, will pitch for the Mets, and he'll have a tough task on his hands.
Well, deGrom, 10-6 on the year and could very easily have 13 wins, 2.18 earned run average. I think what's important to note about Jacob is, much like his counterpart tonight, 21 walks and 119 2/3. Opponents hitting only 203 against him. Right-handers 180. Ironically, he did not. He's only 0-2 against the Dodgers in his young career in 2 starts. He missed the series in Los Angeles earlier. Well, he's got one today, and he's got a tough battery guy he's going up against.
Well, deGrom is second in the National League in earned run average, a distant second to Zack Greinke, who is working on a stretch of 43 2/3 innings without allowing a run.
9-2 with an ERA of 1.30. The last time someone at this point had that kind of earned run average, I believe it was Bob Gibson. He needs 15 2/3 innings to break Orel Hershiser's scoreless streak. 132 and 92 career. This streak he started, it was 6 starts ago, 3-1 against the Mets in 5 starts.
So just getting a run against Greinke these days is a big task. Last night, the Mets scored 15 runs, their biggest output of the season.
Well, we saw the weaknesses were glaring last night on the Dodgers. After their first 2 guys, I mean, their pitching, it kind of takes a step back. The hitting was tremendous. Neuenhuis 4 hits, Conforto 4 hits, 3 home runs. Duda hit 2. Murphy hit 1. 21 hits. It's going to be tough to do that today. A guy like Greinke, like deGrom, only 21 walks for the year for Greinke. He's going to throw strikes. You've got to attack him early. Great pitchers have great secondary pitches. You've got to attack. When you get a fastball, you've got to jump on it.
Not surprisingly, Terry Collins will put the same lineup on the field as rang up the 15 runs yesterday. It's the Mets and Dodgers. All the action coming up on Pix 11. Weather and Caitlin Monty with all the traffic from 5 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Themes of the game brought to you by Hyundai. Take it away, Keith.
Well, it's a DeGrom day, so it is in the day. It sounds like we're from Brooklyn here, Gare. 9-1 record, as you see. And the future, certainly Conforto. I'll buy into that one. And the other guy, the enemy, oh boy, started, like I said, 6 starts ago. And scoreless streak, guiding it to our booth to the right, Mr. Hershiser. It's his record he's about trying to break.
Some of us are from only a borough away. Jacob deGrom on a hot afternoon, getting set to throw the first pitch. Mets and Dodgers. Time 1.69 ERA at Citi Field. Takes his home mound on a hazy, hot and humid Sunday afternoon. Mets trying to get a split of the 4-game series with the Dodgers. And here is the lineup that Jacob will face today, brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. And Don Mattingly will get all of his guns in there today. Adrian Gonzalez, Justin Turner, Andre Ethier batting 7th. This is a powerful Dodger lineup. They lead the National League in home runs with 124, lead the league in walks as well.
And there's Jacob deGrom, and you see in his 19th start of the season, and he has just been splendid. To mention in the open, the walks, the innings pitched, boy, has he just taken the league by storm. He's won his last 3 out of 4 starts. He's just phenomenal. What an all-star appearance. And we'll take a look at the defense, and it's brought to you by Volkswagen Model Year End Sales Event. How about that? That's a mouthful. Conforto, Neuenhuis, Granderson. Guess what, folks? It's the same 8 out there again. 21 hits, 15 runs. I think you run the same bunch out.
Don't mess with success.
Beautiful day.
Jock Peterson, who had a big night for the Dodgers last night, getting set to lead things off. The Dodgers start the day with a 2-game lead over the red-hot Giants in the National League West. The Giants won yesterday 2-1 behind Madison Bumgarner. They won 10 of 11, so they're putting the heat on L.A. And all the talk in the Dodger camp is about what they need, and what they need is pitching.
Yes, they do.
Which is ironic for the team that has the best 1-2 pitching combination in baseball. But beyond that, they've got some needs, and we saw that in stark contrast last night. Dodgers made a couple of moves today, sent 2 of those relievers who pitched last night down to the minors. Chinwei Sao and Josh Raven both sent down to make room for Greinke and reliever Yimi Garcia. First pitch of the day by DeGrom is up and away, and we're underway. Peterson 5 for 12 in the series with 2 doubles and a home run. His home run last night was his first in nearly a month. His 21st of the year, leading all rookies. And he swings through the fastball from DeGrom, 1-1.
3 for 4 last night, Gary, with the home run, the solo shot. Big swinger. It's all or nothing with Jock Peterson's swing. And got a hanging slider here from Matt Harvey, who was brilliant last night. Got touched up with 2 home runs, both from the left-handers.
That said, I hung 2 breaking balls. Otherwise, he was pretty pleased with his performance. Duda handles the ground ball. DeGrom covers, and that's the first out of the afternoon. This is the kind of a day with DeGrom and Greinke throwing where if you get a run, you might not get much more.
This is my kind of ball game. Growing up as a kid, the big pitching matchups in my day would be Gibson, Marichal, Warren Spahn, Gaylord Perry, Koufax, Drysdale. You just love to watch the great ones pitch. And certainly DeGrom, he hasn't been in the league long enough. But he is certainly blazing a trail right now.
Well, for a Mets young pitching staff that may be blossoming into one of the best top to bottom in many years, DeGrom right now is at the head of the list. Howie Kendrick fouls off the slider, and it's 0-2.
Well, the great pitchers, the top-notch pitchers, always have great command, have great secondary pitches, can throw them anytime in the count, and that's what separates the men from the boys.
Kendrick foul tips it. It's held by Plawecki, and DeGrom has his first strikeout of the afternoon.
Just right down the middle, Gary, and threw it by him.
98-mile-an-hour heat.
And don't think DeGrom right now isn't fired up pitching in this kind of a pitcher's duel. Don't think that pitchers don't get up pitching against the greats.
And now he'll face the biggest bat in the Dodger batting order. Adrian Gonzalez is 4 for 7 in this series and has been red hot since the All-Star break. There are only 2 players in DeGrom's brief career who've hit 2 home runs against him, and Adrian Gonzalez is one of the 2. DeGrom faced the Dodgers twice last year and lost both times. And he's quickly ahead on Gonzalez, 0-2.
Gonzalez was not in the lineup originally last night, stiff neck, but was a late entry for the Dodgers.
And then they took him out late in the game after they fell far behind.
1 for 3 on the night on a game that was really out of control early.
0-2. And just got a piece of that. 99 miles an hour from DeGrom. I'm not sure we've ever seen that number from him before.
He's juiced up, no doubt about it. Fired up would be a better word. Great command of the fastball. He's learned to throw upstairs in the strike zone too.
And Gonzalez goes down on the slider to end the inning. Back-to-back strikeouts for DeGrom to complete a dominant first. Now it's Greinke's turn as the Mets come to bat with no score. As Keith mentioned, same starting 8 in the same order as last night, and why not after the Mets banged out a season high 15 runs and 21 hits. The task a tad more difficult this afternoon against the best pitcher in baseball this season, Zack Greinke.
Well, 31 years of age, started out with Kansas City, Milwaukee. He's always been a top-notch pitcher, but this year is just off the charts. Look at that 1.30 earned run average. That's unheard of.
Curtis Granderson leads off and takes a strike on the inside corner. Granderson 2 for 11 in this series. Drew his 50th walk of the year last night. But Greinke doesn't walk many, just 1.4 walks per 9 innings, third best control in the league. And he throws a slider low and in, 1-1.
So it's pretty amazing. And that was 68 when Gibson had the 1.12 earned run average. That was the last year before they lowered the mound. It was such a pitcher's year. He's at 130. He's still got a ways to go to get below Gibby.
Pulled toward the hole, and Gonzalez gets over there with that Gold Glove. Greinke has to reach back for it, and they get the out.
We'll take a quick look at the Dodger defense, brought to you by Volkswagen model year end sales event. And Puig back in the lineup. He had a day off last night. Ethier was in right. He goes back to left. Same infield. The A team is in here. Whenever you got two stars, this is a Sunday game. A lot of times they give the everyday players a rest, a day game after a night game. Not when you have a pitching matchup like this. The A team's out there for both squads.
Ruben Tejada has been swinging the bat very well. 3 more hits last night. 5 for 14 in this series. Has his batting average up over 260.
Well, Ruben has been hitting more line drives, Gary. He gets a little long with his swing, and that's just his swing. It's hard to correct, but he can work with that with a real sharp focus on the top half of the ball, line drives. And like I said last night, I've never seen Ruben playing with the acuteness and intensity that he's played of late. He's played really well.
Kendrick slides over to get the grounder. So 2 ground balls from Greinke and 2 outs.
Now, when did Greinke fly back to New York here after his wife delivered?
He, the baby, a boy named Bodie, was born on Thursday night. He was supposed to originally pitch that Thursday night game against the Mets, or the Friday night game, the second game of the series. And he flew back late Friday, too late for them to start him last night, and that's why Zach Lee got the start. So he's been back in New York for 36 hours,
yeah,
so he should be okay.
He's rested.
Here's Murphy, who's 3 for 11 in his career against Greinke. Greinke faced the Mets on the 4th of July. Matched up against Matt Harvey through 7 scoreless innings and got the win.
So interesting what Greinke just did. He motioned to Turner, Justin Turner, to move more in the hole, and Ethier and left to come in. So what does that tell me? For Murphy's pitching to Murph, going to pitch him away, play him away. Murph hit the home run last night, remember, down and in. Pulled it down the right field line.
His 6th home run of the season, one of 4 home runs the Mets hit last night. And he lays off that changeup. 2-0. Greinke's got that power change. Not a big differential in terms of speed between his fastball and his changeup, but a very effective pitch.
That's what Glavine had. That's what Andy Messersmith had.
Another one, 2-1.
So he's always got the sinking movement. You can see the ball's almost spinning like a moon orbiting horizontally across the ball. And it sinks, it just drops off. Oh boy.
And he goes right back to it and gets even on Murphy, 2-2.
So it's a circle change. See the circle on the index finger. And he hasn't thrown it for a strike yet here. So if you're observing on the bench, it's guys, make him get it up. I know it's hard, but try to make him get it up.
Well, that's one of the discernible characteristics of Greinke this year. He seems to get more strikes on balls out of the strike zone than anybody. 3 ground ball outs for Greinke. So he matches DeGrom, and we go to the 2nd. Mets and Dodgers, no score. Anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which has improved the lives of so many millions of Americans, and it's great to see so many folks out here at the ballpark making use of the facilities for the disabled. Second inning, Mets and Dodgers, no score. Justin Turner will lead off against Jacob deGrom, who retired the side in order in the first with a couple of strikeouts. Turner, in his return to Citi Field, 4 for 11, couple of doubles and a home run in the series. And deGrom throws one by him, 0-1.
Remember, very deep in the box. We noticed all first 3 games of this series. Turner having a terrific year for the Dodgers. Deep in the box, as you see his back foot, and on top of that plate.
Nothing but heat from deGrom, and quickly ahead 0-2. Yasmani Grandal on deck, and then Yasiel Puig. This is a deep batting order that deGrom is facing today. He pitched against the Nats last Tuesday. Gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. Left for a pinch hitter. That worked out well. Mets rallied and won, and he got his 10th win of the year. This is high to Turner, 1-2.
Sorry, Gary, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make a point there. Remember, deGrom was in his rookie year last year. Really kept the ball on the knees. Started working on throwing, elevating, and he learned quickly.
And now he does both, and he gets Turner looking.
That's where you got to pitch. The guy stands on top of the plate.
3 straight strikeouts for deGrom, 1 down in the second.
This is called paint. Beautiful framing by Plawecki, and that's nipping. There's no black anymore on the home plate, which I find very interesting.
It's the imaginary black.
Right. So it's an old term, and I know I'm a dinosaur, but that's painting the black. I'm sorry.
If you're a dinosaur, you are T-Rex.
Oh, well.
Yasmani Grandal swings through the fastball. I mean, no messing around with Stegosaurus or any of the lesser dinosaurs. You are right at the top of the food chain.
That's right. Not an Allosaurus. T-Rex.
deGrom and Greinke today come into the day 1-2 in the league in ERA. Greinke 1, deGrom 2. That's a rare event this time of year. Pulled to second. Laying on the outfield grass is Kelly Johnson. And gets the jogging Grandal for the second out. It's the first time in 10 years that the top 2 in ERA have matched up in a start after the All-Star break. Last time it happened was 2005 when Roger Clemens and Chris Carpenter met, when Clemens was 1 and Carpenter was 2 in the National League in ERA. And it happens again here today. Both deGrom and Greinke pitched in the All-Star game. Greinke started it, went 2 scoreless innings, and deGrom had an historic outing, striking out the side on 10 pitches in his inning of work. Yasiel Puig 1 for 5 in the series at a 2-run homer night before last. Still trying to get untracked. Missed 6 weeks. 1-1 to Puig. I think I said Greinke threw 2 scoreless innings. Of course, he gave up the home run to Mike Trout, but he struck out 4 in his 2 innings in the All-Star game. And deGrom crowds Puig, and it's 2-1.
Love the fact that he pitches inside, Gary. We're getting back to that. We got so far away from that back in the 90s, the mid-90s, early 2000s.
Bouncing ball, grabbed by Murphy. 6 up and 6 down for Jacob deGrom to start his afternoon without the ball leaving the infield.
and give him a chance. The 1-2 pitch. Fly ball to right and a semi-check swing. Gonzalez, the record. Oral Hershiser, 59 consecutive innings, scoreless. The all-time record.
It was the end of the 1988 season. As you heard the reference in that clip, it was Hershiser's last start of the year. So in order to break Don Dresdale's record within the 88 season, he needed an extra inning game. And remarkably got the extra inning game, pitched the 10th, and that got him the 59 innings to break Drysdale's record. Kelly Johnson bounced one to third, and Justin Turner throws him out. So 4 batters, 4 ground ball outs for Greinke to start his day.
And we all know what Oral Hershiser did to our 88 hopes of getting back to the World Series.
Well, at least you guys got a run against him, which nobody had.
We went into the 9th inning in game 1, up 2-0, and we won 3-2. Carter's double. It was a bloop double. Then he came in relief. Was it game 4? And was
after Socia hit the tying home run.
And then he really pitched great against us in the 7th game.
Here's Lucas Duda, 2 home runs last night. See if that can have some carryover for Lucas, who had been struggling so mightily. 14 home runs now for the season. Put on the full shift against him.
And rightly so.
And he drills one foul. And a nice catch by a fan. Drysdale's actually 58 1/3. That was the longest streak before Hershiser came along.
Now, the only difference between Greinke and Oral and Don Drysdale were that Drysdale and Hershiser were all complete games, correct?
Well, the 3 of them are the only 3 who've ever had 6 straight starts without allowing a run. If Greinke doesn't allow a run today, he'll become the first pitcher ever to throw 7 straight starts not allowing a run. But you're right, those guys were going 9 or even in Hershiser's case 10 innings at a time.
It's a different game today.
Right. Greinke's got a lot of 7s and 8s in there. Up and away to Duda, and it's 2-2. Michael Conforto on deck. But what Greinke has done this year has been nothing short of fabulous. He's got a whip this year, walks and hits per innings pitched of 0.82. He's been a great pitcher for a long time, but he's never had a whip below 1 before, so he has outstripped himself. Duda hits it toward left center field, but overcomes Ethier. And he grabs it. First outfield put out on either side, and there are 2 away.
Well, I like to see that from Lucas. Even though it was on the end of his bat, he's been pulling way too much, and he's been out in front. The ball away. At least he's trying to go to left center field. He keeps on pull. It's like trying to hammer a circle into a square.
Now Michael Conforto, who had an historic night last night, going 4 for 4 with 4 runs scored in only his 2nd major league game. He's the first Mets rookie ever in any game to go 4 for 4 with 4 runs scored. And he and Kirk Neuenhuis are the first pair of Mets ever to go 4 for 4 in the same game.
Now, I'll be curious to see how Greinke pitches Conforto. Now, he did not tip anything off to the Dodgers. He had 4 hits all over the field yesterday.
Well, what's interesting is that in his 4th at bat last night, the Dodgers put on a full shift against him. He got a base hit to left field, and now in his 2 plate appearances since, they played him straight up.
Absolutely. This is a line drive hitter that uses both gaps. Good pitch there.
He jams him, and it's 0-2.
Curveball backdoor to lead him off. Remember, they're feeling out Conforto too, and don't think that Greinke's aware. He's certainly aware of this streak he's trying to attain, and you don't want the joker in the deck, really. I mean, Conforto is the joker in the deck, a wild card. He's brand new and he could play.
Takes it just off the plate, 1-2. And he gets him with the changeup to end the inning. First strikeout for Greinke. So DeGrom and Greinke each have begun with 6 up and 6 down. There's that power changeup. Don't see that in Double-A.
13 2/3 now for the record.
matters. Big crowd gathered on a Sunday afternoon to watch two pitchers at the top of their games. Jacob deGrom and Zach Greinke each has gone 6 up and 6 down to start the day. Andre Ethier leads off the third and grounds one down to Duda. Bobbles it, but deGrom gets over to cover and they get the out.
Well, it didn't look pretty, but it's a 3-1 on your scorecard. deGrom getting over nicely, as he should. Very agile, long legs.
He might have a Gold Glove in his future. Zach Greinke is the defending Gold Glove pitcher in the National League.
Well, here's a guy with what, a home run in every game so far?
Yeah. Only one player has ever hit a home run in every game of a 4-game series against the Mets, and that was Troy Tulowitzki. Jimmy Rollins has a chance to do that. He's homered in each of the first 3. 5 for 9 in this series.
And he did that here, correct?
He did.
If I recall, the last one was down the right field line, or one of them was, that's for sure.
Rollins now with 33 career home runs against the Mets. Only his 2 ex-Philly teammates, Howard and Utley, have had more among active players. And this is the trio.
That one was up in the strike zone. He's a low ball hitter, or left-handed. There's his spot right there, down on his knees. And this one should be in the same zone. The hanging slider.
Broncos fastball by him at 97. And it's 1-2. They're the career numbers for Jimmy in his 16 big league seasons. The first 15 in a Phillies uniform. Doesn't get to visit as often, but taking advantage of his one stopover. It goes down on strikes. 4 strikeouts for deGrom through the first 8 batters.
He's rushing it up there, Gare. His fastball is alive. It's like on a telephone wire. The Wichita lineman.
Still on the line.
All that arms and legs. He's so loose. It's like Yul Blackwell. The whip. Whips it in there.
So now Greinke, one of the better hitting pitchers in baseball. Silver Slugger 2 years ago when he hit .328, and he rips one up the middle, and he's got the first hit of this game.
How about that?
You know, not shocking from Greinke, a lifetime .211 hitter. In fact, it's a rare event today. You've got 2 pitchers in this game, both of whom have lifetime batting averages over 200.
That ball's a rocket. Nice and level. Belt high out over the plate. Nice job by deGrom getting out of the way. Did a little tap dance there.
8th hit of the year for Greinke, so he's the first base runner for either side. And now Jock Peterson, who grounded out to lead off the game. First time in the last 6 games that Peterson has not struck out to lead off a game. So deGrom out of the stretch for the first time. And Peterson grounds one down to Duda, who's had a busy first 3 innings. deGrom gives up the first hit to Greinke. See if he can respond in kind. No score, middle of the 3rd. consecutive scoreless innings. With his 1-2-3 second, he passed by Sal Magley and Carl Hubble, and now has the 4th longest streak of all time. It only goes back to 1920, since the end of the dead ball era, but gives you an idea just how much history Greinke's making right now.
You see applying the rosin on his forearm. That is to absorb the sweat. Doesn't want any sweat dripping down on his fingers. 4 for 4 last night. 4 RBIs from Mr. Neuenhuis.
And so he's right back in there tonight.
Almost off the interstate.
His second career 4-hit game last night. Very interesting watching Greinke get strikes, particularly on the outside part of the plate, as he hits Neuenhuis, and the Mets have their first base runner of the day.
Well, this is a game right here when you're probably going to be a game decided by a run, and runs are going to be hard to get. You see this Grandal set up inside, little cutter
around the ribs.
You might want to be more aggressive on the bases with stolen bases. Greinke's reaction, he's not happy, of course.
Just the 4th batter he's hit this year.
Neuenhuis has a capability of stealing a base.
Kirk has 2 steals this year. Plawecki, the batter, 0 for 6 in this series, and he takes a strike. Talking about Greinke getting strikes on the outside corner, in the wake of Bryce Harper's comments after his last start, talking about how he's not that good, he got a lot of help from the umpire.
Best keep your mouth shut.
Well, what's interesting is that Greinke has been so great at painting the corner, and from all the advanced metrics, Yasmani Grandal has been the best catcher in baseball this year at stealing strikes.
Well, watch Grandal behind the plate. It almost sets up. He's very pronounced when he sets up on the corners. Almost too early. But he's really, watch. He gets inside.
Loop into center field, and that'll fall for a hit for Plawecki. Neuenhuis takes no chances, but then it gets by Peterson, and Neuenhuis will go to third. That is a huge mistake by Jock Peterson, and the Mets have a runner at third with nobody out.
Well, you mentioned, Gary, Ronnie, also how they kind of little Hollywooded it out there in the outfield the first 2 games of the series. And with an important game like this, with your pitcher, you know, on a scoreless streak, don't you think you'd be a little more ready to use 2 hands and get in front? And Neuenhuis very alertly takes advantage and very much in danger now, the scoreless streak.
So an error charged to Peterson, allowing Neuenhuis to take the extra base, and now DeGrom the batter, and Mets have all sorts of options here. You can hit and run with DeGrom, you can squeeze bunt, you can simply sacrifice the runner or let him swing away.
It's a bunt here, Gary. Sacrifice 1 out, get the runner second and third.
You know what? I would be inclined to let him swing away, even if they turn 2, take the run.
Dodgers are uncertain. Corners are not in aggressively on DeGrom.
DeGrom with 8 hits, 1 RBI this year. Neuenhuis at third, Plawecki at first, and nobody out. And he swings away and fouls it off.
I'd have him bunt. I'm sorry. I want a base hit and get 2 runs in.
I think Terry Collins' attitude right now is, I'll take a run any way I can get it and let DeGrom do the rest.
Well, he's pedal to the metal. That's what he's doing.
Those middle infielders creeping in. Now he puts the bunt on and he lays it down foul. Not a squeeze play.
It's just, to me, you want 2 chances here. Now he's 0-2, Gary, and he can throw that changeup or curveball in the dirt. Doesn't have to throw a strike for 2 pitches. Remember, it's a guy that has only 21 walks in 132 and a third innings. So he can waste 2 pitches and try to get DeGrom to fish to get a strikeout.
Greinke has not given up a hit to an opposing pitcher this year. Pitchers are 0 for 31 against him. Hit slowly. Coming home is Gonzalez. The slide is safe. And the streak is over. Neuenhuis got under the tag by Grandal, and the Mets lead it 1-0, and the Dodgers almost certainly won't challenge this call.
I don't think so, Gary. He's safe. He is safe. They're going to see the replay, and they're not going to challenge. It's over.
So if it is over, the streak ends at 45 2/3 innings.
See, the one thing I'm going to be, he's definitely safe. The one thing about Gonzalez, he's a Gold Glover at first base, but he's not real quick-footed. He could have came in and charged that ball a little more quickly.
And the Dodgers declined to challenge, so the streak officially ends. Jock Peterson's error in center field proves very costly for Zach Greinke as Neuenhuis slides in with the game's first run.
You know something? This is an important game right here. Look at Grandal. Very good. Going to talk to Greinke. He's just lost his streak. Settle him down. Okay, hey, stop the bleeding right here. Now let's just focus on getting a win. Not a good throw at home either.
It'll be a fielder's choice all the way, I'm sure.
Slid into the umpire.
An RBI for DeGrom, his second of the year. And now the Mets have first and second, nobody out, and a chance for more. So Superman's breastplate has been dented.
Well, he surpassed two pretty great pitchers in Magley and
Hubble. Fell short of Hershiser, Drysdale, and Gibson. The fourth longest streak since the dead ball era. 45 2/3 innings, and now a run against him.
That's a double play ball with DeGrom possibly on that ground ball. The error was not committed. The lazy error, nonchalant error by Jock Peterson in center.
Well, I got another question for you. There's the 1-1 to Granderson, and he hooks it into right field, but right at Puig. Racing back to tag is Pilecki, but he's going nowhere against Puig's arm.
Well, we got to back up third.
So that's the first out of the inning. What I was going to ask you, Keith, is if the streak wasn't alive, do the Dodgers go for the double play there and let the run score?
Yes. Yes. That would be my focus to go home. I would have charged the ball quicker, but like I said earlier, Gonzalez is not real quick-footed.
First run of the game brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. So it's a situation where, you know, something other than winning the game dictated how the Dodgers played that, and it might have played it into a bigger inning. We'll see. Here's Tejada, who grounded out his first time up. Pilecki at second, DeGrom at first, and one out.
Well, the culprit is the center fielder. I don't want to point a finger at him, but the error is the one that cost Greinke his scoreless streak. And a very fine fielder in Peterson in center. He can go get him.
That was his fourth error of the season. 2-0 to Tejada with Danny Murphy on deck. First time Greinke's given up a run since June 13th in San Diego. 43 days ago. Now Greinke rarely walks people behind 2-0, and Tejada breaks his bat, flies it into shallow left, coming on hard as Ethier, and he gets there to make the catch, and Pilecki's going to be doubled up. Pilecki thought that was going to fall in, or he forgot how many outs there were, one or the other, but he gets doubled off second base to end the inning. So Greinke cracks, gives up an unearned run, and the Mets take a 1-0 lead after 3. Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat for your smartphone or tablet. The official scorer has ruled an earned run against Greinke, which is a 50-50 call, I think. If you recreate the inning without Peterson's error, the ground ball that DeGrom hits moves a runner to third with 1 out.
Right.
And I think the scorer is saying that the runner would have scored on the line drive to right, but with Puig's arm, you never know.
It wasn't hit that deep. It would have been a very close play. You don't know, but I can see it being called an earned run.
Which is what the decision was. Here's Kendrick, who struck out his first time up. So DeGrom has his run. What do you think happened with Plawecki on that last play? Do you think he forgot how many outs or just read the pop-up wrong?
I thought he misread it. I thought from up here, and it's an entirely different view, I thought it was a bloop and going to drop. I did that once in Dodger Stadium when I was very young. Ted Simmons hit a blooper down the right field line. I was on third base, and Reggie Smith caught it. I was embarrassed.
2-1 to Kendrick with Gonzalez on deck, and now DeGrom behind in the count. Jacob has averaged 1.6 walks per 9 innings. And Kendrick swings through the fastball, 3-2.
And he's got good gas. He's throwing it by these hitters. Upstairs.
(3-2) to Kendrick. Out to center field. Neuenhuis right there waiting for it. 1 away.
You know, Garrett. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to show Plawecki right now, so we'll hang in there. No, see, he misread it.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought so. It's understandable. Whenever, Gary, what I don't see today is everybody hits one way. When I faced a real hard thrower like Bedrosian or J.R. Richards or Nolan Ryan, Mark Langston, I had to get a little more set, a little more crouched in my stance because that ball's rushing up there in a hurry. I can't sit up there relaxed, and that's a guy like DeGrom right now. If you're paying attention on the dugout, you know you're going to get a fastball. Get set, more set. Easier said than done. Just an observation.
Towel was loose on the field, and the home plate umpire Manny Gonzalez made sure it was tucked away. Adrian Gonzalez struck out his first time up, and he lifts one foul, and it's 0-2.
Everybody's a little tardy. I know these day games now, that a lot of times it takes around the 4th inning for some of these guys to wake up, but on a game like this with 2 top-notch pitchers, I think both teams are geared up from pitch 1, Garrett.
Second time through the batting order for DeGrom. 0-2 to Gonzalez, and he lifts that one down the line. Been 4-0 over toward the stands, but that's out of play. Jacob DeGrom had a stretch back in May when he was overstriding. His pitches were up when he didn't intend them to be, and he got hit hard for a while. Worked with Dan Worthen to shorten his stride, improve his take back. Since then, 11 starts. He has a 1.50 ERA, and he has just been dominant.
Well, good try inside. This is good old-fashioned pitching from both Greinke and DeGrom. Pitching inside.
Gonzalez hits a rocket to center. It's slicing away from Neuenhuis, but he gets there. That ball was like a jet taking off midway through, and Neuenhuis had to adjust to it and made the play.
Well, one thing about Neuenhuis, he's not going to hurt you in the field. He can pick it out there. He can go get them. Center, left, and right. Can play all 3 positions. Got a strong arm.
Well, he's getting his 2nd straight start in center field with Juan Lagares on the bench, and you know, Terry Collins laid down the gauntlet yesterday. He said, if you hit, you're going to play. And the Mets went out and had their best offensive day of the season, and it certainly makes sense that he would run the same lineup out there. But how that's going to work on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be very interesting to watch over the next few weeks.
Well, under the weather map is Flores getting sat down 2 days in a row.
Turner pops one straight up. Plawecki trying to find it, and does. Side retired. So DeGrom, after getting a run, turns in a shutdown inning. Middle of the fourth, Mets 1, Dodgers nothing. In the sun, what do?
Well, you use your glove, and you can see his eyes are shaded. Oh, they popped in for a second. You got one quick look. There you go. He's completely got it there. You see it. That's how it's done.
And Murphy was hurrying in just in case Plawecki needed help.
You know, always didn't want, if you stayed out late and you had the, you know, the railroad tracks on your eyes, the map. You know, you didn't want those high pop-ups on a sunny day. Even with glasses. It's very glary.
Well, you know what the solution to that is, right?
But
try not to stay out late before a day game.
Precisely. You don't want the road maps from the eyes.
Well, Zach Greinke finds himself in an unfamiliar position. First time in 7 starts that he's given up a run, and he finds himself behind for the first time in a month and a half. And now Murphy hooks a base hitting to right field on a curveball from Greinke. And the Mets get the leadoff man on for the second straight inning, their second hit. Kelly Johnson coming up. We check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Guys, in Greinke and Kershaw, the Dodgers have maybe the 2 most dominant pitchers in the league today. But when you talk about them, you may be unable to find 2 more opposite guys in terms of personality and how they approach the game, how they approach preparing for each start. Speaking with Justin Turner, who we saw pop out to end the top half of this inning, he said that they're the 2 hardest working guys he's ever seen, but on totally different aspects of the game. With Clayton Kershaw, he comes out every day, works physically harder than anybody else, throwing, running before anybody else gets to the ballpark, and that shows in the way that he pitches, how his stuff is just overpowering for the most part. And then you've got a guy like Greinke, who works harder than anybody he's ever met in terms of preparing himself mentally for each batter coming up. He's working on the film all the time, breaking down each guy's individual swing, finding their weaknesses, and with his accuracy and his stuff, he's able to exploit guys better than anybody else Turner's ever seen.
Okay, that makes sense. It's interesting how everybody approaches their craft. I think that pitchers, there you go, right there, the top 2 of the rotation, you can't find any better than that. I think that pitchers can work out, starting pitchers, because they're once every 5th day.
Johnson pulls one to Gonzalez from his knee, gets the out. Rollins the return, beautifully done with a 3-6-3 double play.
Well, the ball's ripped. Watch Gonzalez get down on the knee. Doesn't want to throw his legs. Oh, not really. He just didn't get in front, but had the glove down. Okay, nice play. I mean, he's got good hands. I don't agree with the soft toss, but it's 3-6-3 nonetheless.
By the way, Murph went distinctly out of his way to try and take out Rollins there. Not sure he could have touched the bag from where he was. 2 out and nobody on. Here's Duda. He takes a fastball outside.
Well, he'll take a look at the slide, Gary. See what he's altering it right now.
I mean, the rule of thumb is supposed to be you're supposed to be able to touch the bag from where you slide.
That's a very good call on your part, Gary. That could have been an out. He went out of his way to take the shortstop out.
I mean, it's a moot point because they turned the double play anyway.
But getting back to pitchers and conditioning, once every 5th day, they can come out and work out and run. Pitchers always ran.
There's that good changeup, 2-1. Well, the other thing about Greinke and Kershaw is that they're very opposite personality-wise. Kershaw is very gregarious, handles the media attention well. Greinke, although he's very honest with the media, sometimes to a fault, he prefers to lay back out of the spotlight. And I think, oh boy, he gets tied up, does do it at 2-2. And I think having Kershaw really helps Greinke, I think, in terms of his comfort level. He had social anxiety issues when he was with the Royals back near the beginning of his career. Missed almost a whole season.
I remember that. Interesting when referring back to John Smoltz, when we had that conversation with him when he was in the booth a couple months ago. We talked about Greg Maddux. He said Greg Maddux did hardly anything between starts.
Right. But he was.
So go figure, right?
He was so cerebral and so precise in his reading of hitters. Duda takes strike 3 call, and he knew it. So Greinke gets him with a fastball, his second strikeout. After 4, DeGrom and the Mets up 1-0.
Other people taught me how to get here and what to do when I got here. Gil Hodges told me how to be a pro and stay here. The most important man in my life from the professional standpoint of my career.
Well, today is a great day for pitchers. Not only in the ballpark here, where the top 2 pitchers in the National League are going head-to-head, but in Cooperstown as well, where 3 of the best of the generation are being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And that was the greatest pitcher in Mets history at his Hall of Fame induction, Tom Seaver, 23 years ago.
Hey, Tom, to this day, breaks up and he gets very emotional when he talks about Gil Hodges.
Rondal swings through the changeup from DeGrom, and it's 1-2.
That was a beautiful suit he had on there, too. Well tailored. Oh.
1-2 coming, and it's up and away. Well, today Pedro Martinez becomes the 14th player to wear a Mets uniform to go into the Hall of Fame, along with John Smoltz, Randy Johnson, three of the greatest pitchers of their generation, and a New York native, Craig Biggio.
Well, Biggio, of course, the 3,000 hits. To me, that's still an automatic. You get 3,000 hits, you get in the big leagues. I was a bit surprised he wasn't a first ballot guy that didn't get in on the first ballot. Pedro, congratulations. What a terrific guy, Gary. We loved him. What a pro.
Swing and a miss, and Rondal down on strikes. Number 5 for DeGrom, 1 out of the 5th. Well, Pedro only spent 4 years in a Mets uniform, but he had an impact larger than that. Not just his performance on the field, but his presence off the field. One of the smartest baseball players I've ever met.
Well, that's what separates the great ones. They have the intellect to use what they got as given them and use it to the maximum.
Puig taking high for ball 1. And here's the stat that defines Pedro Martinez. In his 18 seasons, he had a 2.93 ERA, and he pitched in one of the most offensive eras in history, when the league ERA over his career was 4.37. So his ERA for his career was 33% lower than the league's ERA, and that's the best in history. And that defines how he was able to overcome what for many pitchers was an era where they couldn't compete.
And amazing that he did not early in his career pick for one team. That kind of talent was traded away.
Well, from the Dodgers, who didn't think he was good enough to start, to the Expos, who had to let him go.
The Dodgers let him go. That's what I was referring to.
For Delano DeShields, and everybody thought that the Dodgers had stolen a player from the Expos, getting a star the caliber of DeShields. And Pedro turned out to be one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the game.
Usually the Dodgers don't make mistakes evaluating pitchers. They're like the Mets. They're an organization rich in pitching.
Puig chases the slider out of the strike zone. Back-to-back strikeouts for DeGrom to start the 5th.
Number 6. And Sharp. This young man right here is as good as it gets. Expanding the strike zone right there. Can't hit that. You need a 50-foot baseball bat to hit that pitch. Well, it's an exaggeration, but you get it.
Couldn't hit it with a paddle. Here's Ethier, who grounded out his first time up. I mentioned that 14 players who've worn a Mets uniform are now in the Hall of Fame. Pedro's only the 5th who played more than 2 seasons as a Mets. Seaver, of course, Nolan Ryan, Gary Carter, Tom Glavine, and Joe Torre are the other. 0-2 to Ethier. The Mets had Hall of Famers like Warren Spahn, who played briefly for him, Yogi Berra, who played just a handful of games. But those guys were around for a while. 0-2 coming, and Ethier able to foul it off.
Richie Ashburn, how many did he play with them? How many years?
Just the 1 year, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, just the 1 year.
62.
Okay.
Richie was the MVP of that 62 team.
Terrific guy too.
0-2 coming off the plate. You know that story, right, Richie? Who was from Nebraska. His award for being the MVP was a boat.
Yeah.
In Nebraska.
Go on the North Platte River with that.
1-2 coming. And Ethier again with a quick enough bat to foul it off.
Now, can we say one thing right now? Everybody's paying attention. DeGrom, that's you too, Al. DeGrom is throwing 90% fastballs. He's just bringing it right to him here, guys.
That's what he did in the All-Star game against some of the best hitters. Through 10 pitches, 8 of them were fastballs. And another fastball to Ethier fouled off. Well, you can understand it. You're in a 1-0 game. You've seen the Dodgers hook some home runs down the right field line in this series. You don't want to put yourself in danger of that.
Good one, slider in the dirt here to get the strikeout. See if he goes fishing. Head in the count.
Lined up the middle, a base hit for Ethier.
It was a slider, but he didn't get it down. Gary hung it.
Winheis gets it back in quickly, so the Dodgers have their second hit. A 2-out single for Ethier.
Good at bat for Ethier. Just didn't break. So there's a rare mistake, but he didn't get hurt by it. And there he is. That index finger off the side of the seam to get a little more rotation. Just didn't get it done.
So the tying run at first with 2 out, and the dangerous in this series, Jimmy Rollins steps in. Keeping it away from him, finds the corner, 0-1. Jimmy's hitting just 195 as a left-hand batter this year, but 9 of his 11 home runs have come from this side of the plate, including the 3 in this series. And there's a good changeup by DeGrom to get ahead 0-2.
And there's no monkeying around here, Gary. This is just 0-2. We're not wasting pitches. I'm feeling good. I'm going after you hitters.
Beautiful catch by a fan on that last foul ball, prompting the reaction from the crowd. 0-2 to Rollins with 2 out. Milwaukee wants it up. Just missed.
That is Manny Gonzalez behind the plate. So far calling a very good game. Boy, that's a tough pitch to take there.
1-2 coming. Off speed pitch, grounded to Murphy. Hurries the throw, gets Rollins, side retired. 5 scoreless innings for Jacob deGrom. Halfway through, 1-0 New York.
Michael Conforto leading off the inning against Zach Greinke. And Gary and Keith were talking about the Hall of Fame induction today and the 3 big-time pitchers going in. But the one position player is Craig Biggio. He also had, obviously, a stellar career. And Terry Collins was his manager back in the mid-90s, 1994 to 1996. He called Craig Biggio the ultimate guy to manage. You remembered in 1996, 27 times Biggio was hit by a pitch. And there was one moment where Terry went into a trainer's room and all Biggio was wearing was shorts. Conforto breaks his bat, pops that one out, one away. And what Terry Collins saw was from the shoulder down to the ankle, just straight bruises. It absolutely blew Terry Collins away. And he said, "Craig, are you okay?" And Biggio looked at him kind of bewilderment, shock, saying, "Yeah, what's the problem? I'm good. I'm ready to go play." So that was one of Terry Collins' favorite moments about Biggio and favorite memories. He also talked about his defensive prowess. And, you know, he said he used to come to the park early every day when they were at home. And third base coach Matt Galante would hit him ground ball after ground ball with Biggio on his knees to work on his fielding. It's those little things that put guys like this over the top.
Well, in fact, Biggio started his career as a catcher.
Yes.
Played second base, played center field. He's one of only 2 players now in the Hall of Fame who caught 400 games and played 400 games at another position. And he was a tremendous athlete, proud Seton Hall Pirate.
Well, my father would always call me, and when a young kid, my dad watched the games on the satellite dish, not before the days when you have what you have today with just the big satellite dish.
Who's going to get this one? Over at the sidewall, and it lands untouched, a foul ball.
But he would call me and say, "You know, I've been watching." And he goes, "This kid in Houston, Biggio, the catcher, because he's got a nice swing." Said that to me about Biggio, Molitor, when Molitor came up, and you won't believe the next one, Rich Cerrone.
Really?
He loved Rich Cerrone's swing.
Spongy.
And guys, Terry Collins too, speaking about the leadership that he had, he said between him, Ken Caminiti, and Jeff Bagwell, those guys patrolled the clubhouse like no one he's ever seen. He said if someone didn't run something out, someone didn't play the game the right way, one of those guys would pull that particular player aside, get face to face, and very calmly say, "Hey, you're going to either start playing our way or we're going into the manager's office and you're not going to play."
Well, it makes a manager's job so much easier when you have veterans on your ball club, and the more the merrier. If you're lucky enough to have 3 that set that example, boy.
Especially in the case of Biggio and Bagwell, who had such great tenure. I mean, they were lifelong Astros, and you know that was their team.
And you know, our counterpart over here, crossover in the Bronx, all those years they had Jeter setting the example. All those veterans set the example on that team. My day would have been, you know, Pete Rose ran everything out. Well, if Pete Rose runs everything out, I better run everything out.
Well, and I think in his own way, David Wright has set that same example with this Mets team over the last decade or so. 3-2 to Nieuwenhuis, who was hit by a pitch and scored the only run of this game, and he hits one down through the hole and into right field. A base hit for Nieuwenhuis. So he now has hits in his last 5 official at bats.
Boy, he is playing well, and I tell you what, it's going to be a platoon with him and Lagares, because you don't lose much. I don't think you lose anything with Nieuwenhuis in the outfield.
What a long, strange trip it's been in the first 4 months of the season for Kirk Nieuwenhuis. He starts getting regular playing time now. It will be like, well, the proverbial lightning in a bottle. Right?
I basically see platooning in 3 positions now in this Met ball club.
Here's Plawecki, who had the first Met hit, a bloop to center field in the 3rd. That led to the Mets run. It was bobbled in center field by Jock Peterson. That enabled Nieuwenhuis to go to 3rd. He scored on a fielder's choice, and that was the run that broke Greinke's streak at 45 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings. High-speed pitch comes from Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better.
99 from DeGrom. Ouch. You know, another thing about the platooning, Gary, in today's game with the much more travel, with the expansion, more teams on the West Coast, interleague play. It all depends on how the guys adjust to platoon playing, but the positive side is they're going to be fresher for August and September.
The hard part about platooning in today's game is that there's so little left-hand pitching around. If you're the right-handed part of that platoon, you could go a week or two without playing.
It's difficult to be platooned. Very difficult.
This is the Mets' 99th game. They've only seen 20 left-hand starting pitchers. Fastball, strike 3 call. So Plawecki caught looking for Greinke's 3rd strikeout of the day.
Plawecki's been more than too many called 3rd strikes. He's been guessing up there with 2 strikes of late. Don't like to see that. You've got to battle. When you've got 2 strikes, you've got to look fastball and battle. Not that he's not battling, but it's not the time to be looking for a breaking ball.
So now DeGrom was driven in the only run of the day with a fielder's choice grounder. Gonzalez threw home too late to get Nieuwenhuis as the game's lone run scored. So Greinke had a hit against DeGrom, the first one Jacob gave up, and DeGrom has the RBI against Greinke. He really is a pitcher's duel. Pittsburgh, the Nats got a run in the 3rd off Garrett Cole on a Michael Taylor home run. The Pirates immediately tied it in the bottom of the 3rd, so they are 1-1. That's 3 games behind the Nats.
That would be the Pirates, if they win that game, would win 3 out of 4.
Garrett Cole going for his 14th win today. Only one Pirate has ever won 14 before the end of July, and that was Doc Ellis back in 1971. Changeup misses to DeGrom, 2-1. Little number, and Greinke, the Gold Glover, makes the easy play, and that retires the side. As advertised this afternoon, DeGrom 1, Greinke nothing. On the way. Struck him out. 8 strikeouts for Pedro Martinez, and that's going to be all for Pedro Martinez.
Well, a great pitching performance by Pedro here. Congratulations to Pedro. Absolutely. Number 200.
Games in his career. That was win number 200 for Pedro in 2006, and he goes in the Hall of Fame today. His influence on this franchise greatly outweighs his numbers in his 4 years as a Met. Much of that spent injured.
Oh, how cute.
There's a big fan. Got all the gear.
I like that helmet, sunglasses.
Zach Greinke leads off in the 6th inning for Los Angeles. Greinke had the first of the Dodgers' 2 hits today, and he hits this one in the air to left. A long run for Conforto toward the line, but he'll get there. All right. By the way, we mentioned Pedro had 219 wins. His 218th win came against the Mets. He beat them 1-0 as a Philly, and then he got his last win against the Astros. Here's Jock Peterson, who would love to redeem himself. It was his error that led to the only run of this game. He's been up twice today and grounded out both times. What happens in a situation like that? A rookie makes a mistake like that, costs his star pitcher his streak. Are words exchanged at all? Does he go up to Greinke and at least tap him on the knee and say, you know, I'll get you next time or whatever?
I am sure that he goes up to Greinke and says, look, that's my bad. I apologize. Should have made that play. I feel terrible. In Greinke's case, he's just got, you know, he'll just accept the apology and move on. Right now it's about winning a ball game.
Well, the Mets might have to win this game 1-0 as Greinke has kicked it in gear. 0-2 to Peterson, and that's upstairs. Peterson 118 strikeouts this year, the most in the National League. Howie Kendrick on deck. But he's walked a lot. He's in the top 5 in the league in walks. He's leading all rookies in home runs, and you have to say, even with a .234 batting average and all those strikeouts, that he's having a successful rookie season. 2-2.
You're not even wasting time with just throwing them fastballs. Pour it upstairs. If you throw anything off speed, it's out of the strike zone, down. Don't give him a chance to catch up to it. He's got a long swing. Up and in would tie him up. That's the second time. Now, last night he did that also. I wonder if he wears contacts.
Might be. So he's missed high 3 times in a row after getting ahead 0-2. Rom has not walked a batter today. He struck out 6, allowed no runs and 2 hits. 3-2. Peterson keeps himself alive.
Changeup, 86 mile an hour. Dangerous pitch right there. There you go, inside.
Left center field. Neuenhuis and Conforto, and they come together. Neuenhuis holds onto the ball. Well, neither one of them seemed sure of that ball when it went up. Both got late starts, and they both came charging toward the gap. That's 2 big guys, Neuenhuis and Conforto.
Well, 2 nights in a row here, Conforto has had collisions with his teammates. Last night with Tejada on a blooper, which was really understandable. But this one, you always give ground to your center fielder. I don't know if Neuenhuis is calling it off.
Kirk was calling all the way. He was yelling.
So fortunately, no one's hurt.
More concern for Tejada last night, who went rear end over tea kettle over Conforto when they collided in shallow left. Neuenhuis is more of a block. Slowly hit for Tejada, and he takes care of Kendrick, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Jacob deGrom in the top of the 6th. Still 1-0 Mets. run-ins with his teammates, quite literally, last night with Ruben Tejada and just now with Kirk Neuenhuis. Fortunately, nobody hurt on either play.
Well, one thing you got to make note of is the fact that Conforto's, he's nervous. He's out in left field. You don't have minor league parks this big, like Citi Field, and he's never played with these guys, so he's got to get used to his teammates, particularly his center fielder and his shortstop and third baseman, and the fact that the ballpark is big. It's a whole different ball game when you got really one level in minor league parks. Now you're playing with upper decks. It's a whole different ball of wax.
So you're saying with the 3 levels, it's different tracking the ball, and that might mean that you're not quite paying as much attention, or is it the noise factor that's different?
I think it's a combination of both. Well, I remember when I came to the big leagues, it takes a little while to get. You're playing in a fishbowl almost. When you think about it.
Anderson fouls it off his foot. Well, Michael was a football player in high school. That's what's Neuenhuis.
Yes.
He's got a little bit of that mentality that he's going to run through whatever he needs to make a play, but he'll learn.
It'll be fine.
He's a little sheepish right now about it.
He's getting needled. That's what's happening.
I saw Matt Harvey go over to him in the dugout between innings and give him a little shot.
Just keep getting base hits and doubles. No, so I didn't say home runs.
Those will come. One-two coming, and Granderson fouls it off. Third time through the batting order now for Zach Greinke. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Time Warner Cable. Enjoy more shows on more screens. Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better. One-two to Granderson. Off the play with the changeup. 2-2. Greinke has struck out only 3 today. Hasn't walked a batter. He hit a batter, and that cost him a run ultimately. The only run of this game. He hit Neuenhuis to start the third. 7th pitch of the at-bat coming to Granderson. And Curtis takes off the plate. Another changeup. 3-2. Longest at bat of the day against Greinke, who went 8 innings in his last start, but that was 7 days ago. He's had a lot happen in his life since then. The birth of his son Bodie on Thursday. Flew back to LA and then came back on Friday. Granderson hooks one into right center, and that's down for a base hit. Peterson fields this one cleanly. Granderson has the Mets' 4th hit against Greinke, and the 3rd time in the last 4 innings the Mets have had the leadoff man on.
Well, recall that 18-inning game when Curtis came in late in St. Louis off the end of the bat, kind of just served it out there. He stole 2 bases after he came into that game. He's capable of stealing a base. This is a game that is going to be decided. It could be 1-0. This is a good opportunity to either steal or hit and run.
Greinke's given up 5 steals this year in 9 tries. Tejada is 0 for 2. Hit a fly ball that resulted in a double play his last time up when Plawecki got caught off second base. The runner goes, a hit and run play. Gondal double clutches, and Granderson is safe. Well, it was a hit and run. Tejada missed it, but Grandal did not get the throw away quickly, and Granderson has his 9th steal.
Granderson's out if it's just a double clutch right there. That was the difference. So the Mets catch a break. If I'm Tejada right now, I'd put a bunt down.
And Kendrick was a little late getting to the bag as well. He was not in good position to field that.
It was the double clutch. Yeah. You know what? He had to hold with a hit and run here. You know, the swing was on, so he had to hold his position a little longer.
Well, now Tejada and Tim Tuffle in deep conversation. Would the Mets sacrifice here to try and get that run to third?
I would.
Stolen base brought to you by Larceny Bourbon, a 92 proof small batch bourbon. Unlock smoothness.
Is it Larceny or Larceny?
Last Sunday you were the one calling for imbibement.
Oh, yes. I got to put the bun on, Gare. I'm sorry.
Well, that appeared to be the nature of the conversation, and the Dodgers are looking for it.
I don't believe they're going to put the wheel on. Granderson still runs too well.
Ruben has one sacrifice this year. It came in the 18th inning game last Sunday.
Got to get the bunt down.
And he gets it down. A beauty. Greinke has to field it and make the play. He could have let it roll. It might have gone foul, but you can't take that chance.
No, you cannot. Well done. Good execution.
1-3 on the sacrifice, getting Granderson to third.
So, well done, Ruby.
Now the infield will come in for Daniel Murphy. It's up 1-0. Granderson at third and one out.
And going from the windup, Greinke, and then Mattingly is going to come out. Now this is interesting, Gary. I think what Don here is, you've got a guy in Murphy who's a tougher strikeout. Kelly Johnson has always been kind of a guy you can strike out. So do you really want to pitch to Murphy here, or would you rather, there's two left-handers, or do you want to attack Kelly Johnson and hopefully get a double play? You could play your infield halfway up the middle. I don't want any part of Murph here. I will go after him, but if I fall behind, I'm going to walk him.
Murphy doesn't usually let you walk him. If you're going to walk him, you probably have to walk him intentionally.
There's a Wides visit to the mound here.
What Murphy's done against Greinke, including a base hit his last time up. So they're not going to intentionally walk him. Kelly Johnson, the cleanup hitter, waiting on deck. Granderson at third and one out. Mets up by a run in the sixth. Lays off the changeup, ball one.
Interesting. Adrian Gonzalez way off the bag, outside the cut of the infield grass, taking the hole away from Murph on the right side of your screen. Yep, this is all two changeups.
Kelly Johnson 0 for 8 in his career against Greinke with his 2 outs today. And now they're going to walk Murphy intentionally. They threw him a couple of changeups off the plate, and now they're going to take away any pretense.
And I 100% agree with this. And I think when Mattingly went out there, sometimes the pitcher's out there pitching a tight game in a jam, and they lose sight. Their blood's up, and they're all geared up, and they forget who's in the on-deck circle. This is the guy you want to go after, and this is no slight to Johnson. Even Johnson's more of a strikeout guy.
And he's gotten 2 ground balls from Johnson already, including one for a double play his last time up, and that's what he's hoping for here. That's Greinke's first intentional walk all season, by the way.
You could have a squeeze in order here. First base, Gonzalez has to hold the runner on. And look at Turner playing deep. All you got to do is put a bunt down and you walk home.
Kelly had 2 hits last night in his Mets debut, including an upper deck home run. Granderson at third, Murphy at first and one out. And Johnson first pitch swinging down to first. Gonzalez throwing home for the tag, and he's out.
Nice play.
A much better throw this time for Gonzalez, who was unable to get Neuenhuis back in the third inning when the Mets scored their run. This time right on target with a running toss to get Granderson to the second out.
I am just stunned that Turner was so far in the hole, not holding on. Beautiful play at number 1. Let's get back to the play. Good break from Granderson. Just you got to throw on the run here, and that's what Gonzalez does. No chance to get set. Just a real nice play. Should make the play, but not an easy play. That's
not for
sure.
a left-hand thrower. Much easier for a right-hand thrower. One of the few plays for a first baseman that is. But that's why Gonzalez has won 4 Gold Gloves.
Yep. Boy, I tell you what, that was just to put the bunt down, and Granderson could have low-righted into home plate.
So now Duda with 2 out and 2 on. And Lucas takes wide for ball 1. Lucas flied out his first time up. Then in the 4th, he got tied up badly on a second strike and then took a fastball for strike 3. Greinke knows the way DeGrom's going. He can't afford to give up anything more, and he's got a huge out. Now he's behind on Duda 2-0. Michael Conforto would be next. That's off the plate. Another changeup on 2-0.
I would give Lucas a hit sign here, Gary. Just take a chance. You've got to know as a professional hitter that when you get a 3-0 hit sign, you're looking middle end.
Have not seen Duda swing much on 3-0 in his career. See if he's inclined to here. Murphy at second, Johnson at first, and Duda takes ball 4, and the bases are loaded for Conforto. So Greinke issued an intentional walk to Murphy, now an unintentional walk to Duda to fill the bases. Conforto, who went 4 for 4 last night and has 2 RBIs in his first 2 games in the majors, gets a big 2-out RBI chance.
First at bat, in and out, and then got him with a head in the count with a changeup after a fastball in. Next at bat, he jammed him up and in with a fastball first pitch. Let's see how he attacks him here.
Broke his bat on that bloop the last time up. Bases loaded, 2-out. Murphy at third. Johnson at second. Duda at first. And Conforto takes a strike.
So right after him inside, you saw Grandal set up in. That ball did not get in. It bled out over the middle. But the intent was inside.
That's as badly as Greinke has thrown a pitch today.
Same thing with Duda here. Missed badly with the changeup.
Greinke, who gave up a run today for the first time in 7 starts. And it's a big pitch to make to Conforto, playing in his 3rd big league game. And he hits him.
Oh boy.
And that forces in a run. The second batter that Greinke has hit today. The first one cost him a run, and so does the second. Murphy comes in to score, and it's 2-0 New York.
Wanted to come in, overthrew it. Not really trying to get out of the way, but you can't.
Not a Dick Dietz call.
No, definitely not. You got that right.
Reference to Don Drysdale's streak that was extended, even though he hit Dick Dietz of the Giants with the bases loaded. Home plate umpire said Dietz didn't make an effort to get out of the way, and the streak continued. So here's Neuenhuis, who was hit by a pitch back in the 3rd and scored the first run of this game. And he takes off the plate for ball 1.
All of a sudden, Greinke is missing his changeup, Gary, and it's more flat, which means he's not getting on top of it, which might mean he's tiring.
Some stirring around in the Dodger bullpen. Remember the week that he's been through, flying back and forth to the coast, the birth of his son. Wouldn't be surprised on a warm afternoon if he was running out of gas. Neuenhuis takes a rip. 1-1.
There's the good one. Finally got on top of this changeup. Now look at the difference. Look at the sink.
Neuenhuis has hits in each of his last 5 official at-bats. He's been on base 7 straight times. 4 for 4 and a walk last night. A hit batsman and a single today. And Kirk grounds one right at Rollins. He'll go to first with it to retire the side. But the Mets get a run on a bases loaded hit by pitch. And they lead 2-0 over Greinke and the Dodgers after 6. 92 proof wheated small batch bourbon. Unlock smoothness at larcenybourbon.com. Around the Majors brought to you by Signet, together all the way. For the second time in 2 days, the Royals are close to acquiring Johnny Cueto in a deal. Not done yet. Neil Walker hit a home run, and the Pirates now up 3-1 on the Nats in the fifth. Garrett Cole going for his 14th win.
What a year he's having. He beat the Metsies in Pittsburgh.
He did. He was very, very impressive. Adrian Gonzalez 0 for 2, lined out to center field his last time up. Jacob deGrom now with a 2-run lead as we start the seventh. And he's behind on Gonzalez 2-0. Justin Turner on deck, then Yasmani Grandal 3, 4, and 5 in the Dodger batting order. DeGrom has limited the Dodgers to 2 singles this afternoon. Now he's behind on Gonzalez 3-0. DeGrom has not walked a batter. It's only his third 3-ball count of the day. There's a strike. Just over 80 pitches now. So he's in good shape in the seventh inning. Nobody up in the Dodger bullpen, so it certainly looks like Greinke's going back out there for the bottom of the seventh. And there's ball 4, and the Dodgers have a leadoff base runner on the first walk of the day by DeGrom. He had retired the first 2 batters in every inning until that leadoff walk. Justin Turner coming up. Let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve.
Guys, we were talking earlier in the broadcast about Zach Greinke and his inordinate amount of preparation trying to exploit hitters' weaknesses. Justin Turner credits his breakout season this year. He credits Greinke a lot for that. A few times this season he sat down with Greinke and asked him, how would you pitch to me? How would you exploit my weaknesses? Turner said, if Greinke doesn't see something, no one's going to see it. And so if I know how Greinke would pitch me, I'm better prepared to pitch to face anybody else.
Well, it's always great, Steve, to ask questions of your veterans, and every little bit of information, you know, some of it may not compute and some of it may make perfect sense.
Can I ask you a somewhat cynical question? Would every pitcher in that circumstance help his teammate in that regard, thinking, well, maybe we'll be on different teams someday and I don't want him to have that edge on me?
Well, I remember a certain veteran telling me, never tell your teammate, your pitcher, what you're looking for, or in situations what you like, because that guy might get traded.
Ron bust Turner inside 1-2. So there's some who might and some who might not.
I think that there's, to me, looking at Turner standing on top of the plate, you got to pitch Turner in. It's the same thing. You got to get a hitter worried in. There's no difference. The game hasn't changed.
Curveball from DeGrom is pulled foul.
If you can't establish inside on a hitter, then you're going to have a whole lot of problems. What they used to say, I don't think it's in the computer jargon, up and in, low and away. That usually works. That should be default on a computer.
Control-Alt-Delete. It goes right to up and in, low and away.
When you're on top of the plate, when I hit on top of the plate against left-handers, you can't cover the entire plate, but you can sure cover that outside corner. That barrel, that bat is on the black.
Little flare, shallow center. It may fall. Nieuwenhuis coming on, though, and he makes the catch. Nieuwenhuis had to come a long way. And he makes a really nice play for the first out.
He turned the jet burners on there. Very nice. Little slide at the end.
Nieuwenhuis has had a very nice couple of days in center field.
That would have got my mom very angry. Grass stains on the pants.
You didn't have shout back in those days.
It's right.
one out and one on. Now Yasmani Grandal. Would you have been more upset about the grass stains or the rip?
Well, the grass stain, they really had to get the brush. You had to brush out the grass stains. It was a lot of work. Those lovable moms.
Then she's got to get the sewing kit out and sew up the pants. Now kids today, they say, oh, Mom, buy me a new pair of pants. No. We're going to fix those.
Used to always buy the pants a little bit bigger, remember? So you grow into them. They last longer.
Rondell gets jammed and pops it up. Johnson shading his eyes, having trouble with it, but stays with it for the second out.
He had it all the way.
But he didn't have his sunglasses on. They were on top of his hat.
I just don't understand that. I don't understand it. Rondell, he can do all he wants. He's got a long swing. When you got a guy throwing upstairs, throwing hard. Again, once again, much like Pilecki we showed you earlier on the pop-up, using the glove.
Here's the part I don't understand, though. If you're going to go to the trouble of having your sunglasses with you in the field, why would you not put them on?
Why would you want to have them on if you don't need them? To me, it would be a distraction.
Right. I mean, it's not 100% sunny. It's a little hazy, but certainly the sun is a factor. Those are very nice looking sunglasses adorning his hat.
I always wore the sunglasses even if it was overcast in day games.
Well, you wore the flip downs though.
Yeah.
So they were always available when you needed them.
I like Ruben's. Ruben's got a nice little white set. Very nice.
Flip downs have made a nice comeback in the game. There was a while there where everybody was wearing the wraparound.
Well, it was all about, certain companies paying you a little glue. This, you're out here making a living. Where the appropriate paraphernalia. Accessories.
For that slider fouls it off.
Accessories.
It's okay for the companies to pay you to wear the stuff that's more effectual. That gives you a better edge.
Right. They can have their trademark on the side where everybody can see it. All that. Trying to win a ball game here. Not be a style. It's not like we're going down the runway and Fashion Week.
Well, I know they got the red carpet now for the All-Star game. 1-2 to Puig. The caravan.
I know. The All-Star game has really become.
Parade.
It's really become an extravaganza.
DeGrom was part of that, and the players love it. It's the game is one thing, but the honor and the pomp and circumstance are something else. 2-2 to Puig. Got him. Slider from DeGrom strikes out Puig for the second time. 7 strikeouts through 7 innings for Jacob DeGrom. Last year's Rookie of the Year. Pitching like a Cy Young today. 2-0 Mets.
2-hitter.
A Sunday afternoon, the top two in the league in ERA, Jacob deGrom and Zach Greinke. An error by Jock Peterson led to a run after a hit by pitch, and another hit batsman brought in the second Met run. Runs as difficult to come by as you would expect. deGrom on top of his game, 7 strikeouts in 7 scoreless innings. Line score brought to you by Toyota. New York Mets baseball brought to you by Audi. Challenge all givens. In-game box score brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
Well, it's a far cry from 21 from last night, but a little upgrade in the pitching, don't you think? Most important thing right there is a run column, and the Mets are up 2-zip.
Those 2 HBPs.
Yep, they're all.
Nice hit by a pitch. He scored the run. Conforto hit by a pitch. He drove in the run.
Absolutely. Error, very costly error in center field. Mets with deGrom in the lineup have 7 left-hand hitters.
Not like Greinke's been vulnerable against lefties this year. They were hitting 182 against him when the day began, and the Mets have managed just 4 singles, but it's been enough so far for deGrom, who is out on deck to bat for himself. deGrom's at 96 pitches through 7 innings, but it looks like he will get the 8th. Kevin Plawecki will start off the 7th for the Mets. Plawecki blooped a single that led to the Mets' first run in the 3rd. Took a call, 3rd strike in the 5th. And takes the breaking ball off the plate, ball 1. Well, it looks like the trade of Johnny Cueto to Kansas City is official. The Royals are going to get 3 players, including the lefty Brandon Finnegan, who was so good for Kansas City in the postseason last year. There's so much starting pitching apparently available in these 5 days before the trading deadline. It should be a buyer's market, and the Dodgers certainly are one of those teams that are looking to buy pitching. The Mets are looking in other areas. Whether they're done after making the Uribe and Johnson deal remains to be seen. Plawecki lifts one to center, and Peterson is there. 1 out. Now deGrom.
Going to get 1 more inning, maybe. I love it. Come on, folks. Stand up and give him a cheer. 2-hit piece.
You know, there was a day.
Yes, there was.
A pitcher in this spot would get a standing ovation from his home crowd, and I just don't get it. There was a smattering of applause, but like nothing special is happening here today. He's working on a 2-hit shutout. He's your all-star. He's pitching a gem. Stand up.
Too many distractions in today's ballparks. It's no longer come to the park and just the sole reason to watch a ball game.
Fastball inside. 1-1. deGrom drove in the first run with a fielder's choice grounder. Hit a comebacker his last time up. J.P. Howell, first man up in the Dodger bullpen. Greinke up over 90 pitches now on a hot day. And curveball dribbled up the first baseline, a foul ball. 1-2. So Michael Conforto in his first 3 days in the big leagues drove in a run with a ground out. He had the 4-for-4 day yesterday, including an RBI hit, and today the RBI hit batsman. Only the second Met to drive in a run in each of his first 3 major league games. The other was another Met first round draft pick who didn't really pan out for them, Jason Tyner, back in 2000.
Oh, I remember him.
He was
left-hand hitter fast.
Yeah, a little singles hitter. Wound up going to Tampa Bay, played some games there, but never really had much of a career. He was a first-round pick, Texas A&M, I think. Anyway, so Tyner and Conforto now the only 2 Mets to drive in a run in each of their first 3 games. If Conforto keeps going the way he's going, he'll have a bunch of those firsts or seconds. 2-2 to deGrom. He keeps the at-bat alive. Jacobs had a good year with the bat, 8 hits, his second RBI today. But now he's got Syndergaard and Harvey with home runs on the board. So, that's hard to live up to. Hernandez jersey, right?
And
the
a Mattingly
jersey. See, got the first base situation in the 80s all covered in New York. Greinke wanted that one. Didn't get the call from Manny Gonzalez. 3-2.
Oh boy, that I think was a strike.
Three-2 from Greinke, and DeGrom fouls off another one. So if nothing else, DeGrom is making Greinke work awfully hard when he might be reaching the end of his rope here in the 7th.
When you're an all-star pitcher or even a regular pitcher, and you got a pitcher up at the plate, you should get the close one. It's the pitcher up. Come on, huh?
And ball 4. So DeGrom works out the walk. The third given up by Greinke today.
And remember, Greinke came into this game with 131 and a third innings pitched and only 21 walks. This is very unusual. You add on, to me, the 2-hit batsman. That's like, to me, another walk.
Right.
It's like 5 walks. 1 intentional.
His 3 walks ties a season high. He came in at 1.4 walks per 9 innings. So it has not been his best day. Now Granderson, who had a base hit and stole a base in the 6th, helping to lead to a run.
Very surprised that Adrian Gonzalez at first base is holding on the pitcher. Very shocked. To play behind the pitcher.
Especially with a left-hand hitter up who pulls the ball. 1-1 to Granderson.
Could never held a pitcher on.
No, DeGrom's not your average pitcher. He can run.
Yeah,
but I doubt he's going to try and steal a base here.
Exactly. Going to leave the hole open for Curtis.
100th pitch of the day coming from Greinke. And he misses down with the changeup 2-1. He's definitely losing some steam.
Yep.
And he looks a little gassed. Dodgers have J.P. Howell up in the bullpen. I thought they might bring him in to face Granderson. They must be getting him ready for Murphy, who's 2 batters away.
So interesting that both pitchers in this series that had a child born may both get Larry's in their names in the paper.
Not yet.
Game's not over here, but John Neese, of course, got the L. Was it the first night?
What I find interesting, the Mets have now had 2 players who've had babies born during games when they haven't left. Right, Familia earlier this year, and then Neese. Granderson pops it up. Rollins, with a little bit of wind blowing, stays with it. That's the 2nd out. Be sure to plan ahead and be here when the Boston Red Sox make their first ever regular season trip to Citi Field for a 3-game series against the Mets, Friday, August 28th through Sunday, August 30th. Purchase tickets online at Mets.com/tickets. For Zach Greinke, this is his 20th start of the year. It's only the 5th time in 20 starts he's given up more than 1 run. That's how dominant he's been this year. Came in at 1.30, an incredibly low ERA. The lowest for any pitcher through 19 starts since Bob Gibson back in 1968, when Gibson finished at 1.12. Here's Tejada, who's 0 for 2 and a sacrifice. And Rubin loops one to center, and Peterson, playing shallow, is there to grab it, and that retires the side. A walk and 1 left. We head to the 8th. Mets up 2-0. Mets will welcome in the Padres starting on Tuesday night for 3 games, then 3 big games with the first place Nationals starting Friday night before the Mets head to Miami and Tampa Bay week after next. For more on the Padres, let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Well, who knows who's going to actually be on this Padres team at this point when the Mets play them next week. But we do know that there's probably a good likelihood Matt Kemp will still be there. He's a tough guy to move, and he's really starting to come on for this Padres team. Last 13 games, he's hitting .413. He's got 5 home runs, 11 extra base hits, 11 RBI. That compared to his first 84 games where he was hitting under .240 and only had 6 home runs up to date at that point. So Matt Kemp really turning it on for the Padres. Something else to watch in this series, Tyson Ross. The Mets get him on Wednesday. He's gotten 16 straight games without giving up a home run. That's the first time anybody's done that since Sid Fernandez did it back in 1992 with the Mets.
His brother Joe is pitching for the Nationals today. He's down in that game 3-1 in the 7th. But you're right, Steve, about not knowing who's going to be here for the Padres as Andre Ethier leads off the 8th and takes a strike. They've got everybody on the block. I mean, James Shields, Andrew Kashner, Ian Kennedy, Craig Kimbrell, Justin Upton. Just about anybody on that team you can name is probably available. The Padres were built to win this year, but they're 9.5 games out in the West, 7.5 games out in the wild card, and A.J. Preller's plan for instant success, for whatever reason, just has not worked. Here takes the changeup off the plate, 2-1. I mean, it's not like they've been egregiously bad. It's just that it hasn't clicked. Their pitching has been so-so. Their offense has been so-so. It's not like anybody's having a terrible year, but nobody's having a big year for San Diego. And Will Myers getting hurt didn't help. He's been out for 2 months. They hope to have him back soon, but he won't be back in time for the series with the Mets. Now, the only guy who's having a really good year for them is Yonder Alonso, but even he is not hitting for any power. Only 3 home runs. Got him. Ethier strikes out. That's 8 for DeGrom. 1 down in the 8th.
Little backdoor slide, or it was a changeup. Garrett?
I think it was a changeup.
Okay.
85. So here's Rollins. 0 for 2 today after homering in each of the first 3 games of the series. Alberto Callaspo on deck to bat for Greinke. Ball 1 to Rollins.
There you go.
Henry Mejia getting ready alongside Jeurys Familia. That's hoping that DeGrom can get through 8 and hand it off straight to Familia.
Familia at this point in the game, it's very familiar to see him out there getting loose.
Well, after being burned in Washington on Wednesday and not having Familia ready in time for a crisis in the 8th, Terry was not going to get caught in that situation again. He really beat himself up about that, maybe excessively.
You know what? It was 2-out rally, and it happened rapidly. Remember that playoff where Dusty Baker got beat up when managing the Giants, and everything happened so quick? It can happen in a game.
Well, it was a day that Bobby Parnell, who had been almost perfect since coming back, was not, and it cost the Mets a big game. 3-1 coming, and it's too high to Rollins. And DeGrom very unhappy with himself. Issues his 2nd walk of the day, and let's see if he gets another batter. Apparently he will. Dan Warthen's going to go to the mound.
He's going to give him a little breather here. Sometimes I wish Dan always trots out there and trots off. Sometimes I just like to see him be like old Rube Walker. Rube would be like in a wheelchair taking his time to get out there. Give your pitcher a little spell. Let the umpire come out and break up the tea party and walk back. Say, come on, give me 2 more outs. You got it. I know you got it in you.
Well, it's a warm, somewhat humid afternoon. DeGrom at 106 pitches. He's thrown as many as 115 this year. He'll have an extra day of rest going into his next start because the Mets have an off day tomorrow. He won't pitch till Saturday against the Nationals. So he'll get at least this 1 more batter with Callaspo coming up. Jock Peterson on deck. Callaspo, switch hitter, batting left, and he takes outside for ball 1. Callaspo has come off the bench in all 3 games in this series. He had a bases loaded walk on Thursday night. Struck out each of the last 2 nights. Peterson, a power hitter, on deck. And there's a strike. 1-1. Rom has walked 2, struck out 8, given up just 2 singles. Greinke singled with 2 out in the 3rd. Ethier singled with 2 out in the 5th. That's been it. Callaspo takes a borderline strike, 1-2.
You got to swing the bat when you're pinch hitting.
Callaspo was one of the players the Dodgers got from the Braves when they traded Juan Uribe earlier this year. Uribe now a Met. 1-2 coming. Late swing foul on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, all long legs and long arms. He's got a whipping motion when he throws. But look at his drive, long stride. It's really wonderful mechanics. Stays upright.
1-2 coming. Just a little low. 2-2.
Double play would be what the doctor ordered for the Mets and Mr. DeGrom.
This may be his last batter either way. 2-2. Fouled away. Got a feeling that we're going to see Familia come in to face Peterson.
Still throwing hard. Here's the motion. All the legs. Gets kind of hunched. It's really a very simplistic motion. Not a lot of areas where you can get out of sync. That's why he's such a precision pitcher, power pitcher.
7th pitch of the at bat to Callaspo. Grounded down to first. Tuna gets the out there and no other play. So 2 out of the inning. Rollins moves to second, and we'll see whether DeGrom gets one more batter. He will not. Terry Collins will make the move right here, and I have to believe it's going to be Familia.
Now, I know that it's picky. I just, with a left-hand hitter, we'll listen to the crowd here. They got to give him a nice. Yeah, thank you.
7 2/3 brilliant innings for Jacob deGrom, and Jeurys Familia will come in to try and get the final out in the 8th. Call to the bullpen brought to you by the Honda Summer Clearance Event. Second in the league in ERA, outpitched #1 Zach Greinke today. Now he'll hand it off to the bullpen and hope Jeurys Familia can get the final 4 outs. Jock Peterson up with Rollins at second and 2 out, and he takes the sinker off the plate for ball 1.
Well, there's Familia's numbers on the year. You remember the home run he gave up in that 18-inning game in extra innings that tied the ball game. A left-hand hitter. He came inside. You got a power hitter here. Here, try to pull this sinker, keep the ball away.
Peterson, the tying run at the plate, 0 for 3 today, and he keeps it away from him. 2-0. 4 times this year, Familia has had a save of more than an inning, and he's looking for a 4-out save today. First, he's got to get that big first out. The Dodgers have a runner to second base for the first time today. Rollins with a walk, advancing on the ground out. That's how dominant DeGrom was. Gave up 2 singles, 2 walks, struck out 8 over 7 2/3. Now it's up to Familia to make it stand up. Peterson grounds one. Johnson gets to it, and the throw gets him by a stride. Side retired. Familia needs 4 outs. He's got the first. They go to the bottom of the 8th. Mets up 2-0. On the Nationals at 8 o'clock, the first 15,000 fans will receive a Michael Kadire poster courtesy of Topps. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Family Sundays. Out of town scores brought to you by the Ram Summer Clearance Event. Garrett Cole going for his 14th win. Pirates up 3-1 on the Nats in the 8th. Braves got shut out 1-0 last night. They're up 2-0 on the Cardinals today in the 4th. Phillies, after the Hamels no-hitter yesterday, a first-inning home run from Maikel Franco. They're up 5-2 on the Cubs in the 4th. And there are the later games. Daniel Murphy leads off in the bottom of the 8th against the new Dodger pitcher, J.P. Howell. Zach Greinke, who had his scoreless string snap today on the short end of a 2-0 score. And Murphy fouls one off Grandal, and that stung.
That gets the inner thigh, and that's a very sensitive spot. Oh, yes, sir.
And an unprotected spot, too.
Well, the inside of that thigh, it's a very sensitive area. There's Howell's numbers. What a year he's had. We talked about him last night.
He worked the 8th inning last night in the lopsided game.
Hasn't given up a run since what, in late April? Just a phenomenal year.
He and Kenley Jansen have been the stalwarts in that Dodger bullpen. It's everybody else who struggled, and two of the pitchers who pitched last night, Josh Raven and Chinwei Sal, both got sent to the minors today after their performances last night. Juan Uribe on deck to bat for Kelly Johnson with a left-hander in the game. Dodgers with a right-hander getting ready. 2-1 to Murphy. Juan Nicasio up in the bullpen. Murphy singled in the fourth. He was intentionally walked and scored the second Met run on the bases loaded hit batsman to Conforto. It's kind of an odd game for Greinke in that he gave up 2 runs and both were impacted by hit batsmen. He hit Nieuwenhuis, who came around to score the first run, and he hit Conforto with the bases loaded to bring in the second run. Murphy pops it up. Rollins waiting for it. 1 out. So now Uribe, who made his Mets debut last night, had a base hit coming off the bench and made a terrific defensive play in the 9th inning as well. Uribe, who started his season with the Dodgers, was smiling at everybody, friend and foe today.
All right, does Murph go to second base, or does Flores go in? Do you burn another player? Defense, you're pinch hitting for Kelly Johnson. Second base is vacated. What would you do?
I think in these circumstances, with Murph not having played there in a while, I'd put Flores in.
I would too.
Uribe hits one down the line.
Uribe is not going to hurt you defensively. He's got the glove at third base. It's actually going to be an upgrade from from Murph. I mean, but that's the only spot he can play. So either Murph goes to second or he exits and Flores goes to second base.
Uribe batting for Johnson, who went 0 for 3 today. And Howell misses with a fastball, 1-1. Greinke went 7 through 103 pitches, allowed 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, 1 intentional, 3 strikeouts. The 2-hit batsman. His ERA soars to 1.37. 1.37.
Further away from Bob Gibson's 1.12.
Nobody's doing that again. By the way, Jacob deGrom with his 7 2/3 scoreless innings today, his ERA goes down to 2.05, second behind Greinke, and for the moment second in the major leagues.
And he's flirting with the interstate, isn't he?
Dallas Keuchel leads the American League at 2.12, so deGrom is second in the majors. By the way, in Pittsburgh, they've gone to the bottom of the 7th, with the Pirates leading the Nats 3-1 behind Garrett Cole. And now on to the 8th.
Going for his 14th?
Yep. 2-2 to Uribe. And he gets tied up and goes around, strike 3. So a strikeout for Howell, second out of the inning.
Breaking ball in the dirt, couldn't hold up.
Rare time, Dallas Keuchel got lit up today by the Kansas City Royals. Big day for Kansas City. They beat up the best pitcher in the American League, and they trade for Johnny Cueto. Kansas City team is just fun to watch. 20 games over 500 now, leading the Astros today 5-1 in the 5th. Here's Duda, who's 0 for 2 in a walk, and the Royals with a 6.5 game lead in that American League Central. They took everybody by surprise last year, not this year. Let me get back there again. 1-1 to Duda. Tune in Saturday, August 8th, when the Mets meet the Tampa Bay Rays. Will be on the air at 6 immediately following Verizon Fios pregame at 5:30. Catch all the action right here on New York's home for baseball, Pix 11. From Howell, and Duda takes a changeup for a strike. 1-2. Michael Conforto would be next. Mets have had just 4 hits today, but that's been enough. They've been able to scratch out a couple of runs, and the way deGrom pitched, that was plenty. 2-2 to Duda. Jerry's familiar, though, will have a tough row to hoe in the 9th inning with Kendrick, Gonzalez, and Turner due up, and if anybody gets on, Grandal. City. Zach Greinke, remember, started his career with Kansas City, was traded to Milwaukee in a deadline deal. The Royals got Lorenzo Cain, Alcides Escobar in that deal, two stalwarts in their lineup. They also got Jake Odorizzi, who they turned around in the trade that got them James Shields and Wade Davis. So the Greinke trade was huge for Kansas City in terms of putting together the core of the team that would wind up in the World Series last year. That wasn't a deadline deal. That was an off-season deal. It was the following year he got traded at the deadline to Anaheim. And then after 2 months in Anaheim, signed the big free agent deal with the Dodgers. Long turn at bat here for Duda. And Lucas grounds one off his foot to foul ball. Ninth pitch of the at bat to Duda, and he takes strike three call. A high strike. Howell gets the call to end the inning. Let's go out 1-2-3 in the bottom of the eighth. Familia back to the mound for the ninth, looking for the final 3 outs. Going back to play second, and Juan Uribe taking over at third as we go to the ninth. Jerry's Familia got the final out of the eighth, looking for the 4-out save. Kendrick, Gonzalez, and Turner up for the Dodgers in the ninth. Kendrick 0 for 3 today, 1 for 12 in this series. And he takes a fastball strike.
Well, you know, it's a close ball game. Terry still has 4 guys on his bench. Remember, only 1 catcher, so really 3.
Slider to have Kendrick going to. Jacob deGrom went 7 2/3, allowed 2 singles, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. Quick pitch by Familia is up and in. It's trying to get a split of this 4-game series as they finish off this stretch of 10 games coming out of the All-Star break against first place teams. After Friday night, when they got shut out by Clayton Kershaw, it looked like this 10-game stretch might be a disaster. But a big offensive output last night, a tremendous pitcher's duel today, and the Mets have a chance to be 4-6. 2-2 coming to Kendrick. He rolls one slowly. Uribe on the charge. Bare hand play. Got him. Hasn't taken Uribe long to show off for the Met fans how he plays third base.
Well, a very big play here in the 9th inning. Mets 2 outs now from salvaging a split. It's a big play right here. Quickness. Can't do it better. Nice play. Oh, a forkball almost.
You don't usually see a guy pick up a bare hand play like that.
Well, sometimes I'm sure it wasn't by design. And the ability then is to adjust to the funky grip and make the throw, Gare.
Here's Adrian Gonzalez. 0 for 2 and a walk today. And you love, if you're familiar, to face Gonzalez in a place where he cannot tie the game.
Right.
Justin Turner, Yasmani Grandal behind him, having good years, but Gonzalez is the guy you fear the most.
You don't want to face anybody with a chance to tie the ball game.
There is not a single player on the Dodger roster who has ever had a hit against Jeurys Familia.
Really?
0 for 15 combined coming into the day. 0 for 17 now. With the 2 outs, Familia's recorded. .99-mile-an-hour sinker fouled off.
Yeah, he's got some life. That's usually the gun, Gare. It's up. The higher you elevate your fastball, the more the gun has more miles per hour. That was knee high in 99. Ow. And
Gonzalez takes that one low. 2-1. Jeurys bidding for his 28th save of the year. His last 2 outings have been in non-save situations, including last night when he finished off the 15-2 Met win. Only threw 9 pitches in a 1-2-3 ninth, which was exactly the tune-up that Terry Collins wanted to get for him, knowing there'd be an off day tomorrow. And available for the 4-out save today. Gonzalez grounds one foul, and it's 2-2. The great pitching matchups don't always live up to the hype. Today's did. That's the first team in 7 starts to score against Zach Greinke, and Jacob deGrom was at his overpowering best.
He bested him. Only 6 hits in this game.
All singles. 2-2. Lifted to right center, hit well. Back in the gap goes Neuenhuis, and that's over his head and off the wall. And Gonzalez pulls into second base with a 1-out double. So it's not over yet. First extra base hit for either side today. 25th double of the year for Gonzalez, and the Dodgers will get the tying run to the plate.
Down and in. Wanted down and away. Such a good hitter. You know, the more and more I see this guy, I wish we could see him more, but these 3 divisions we can't. He's a hitter.
So now Justin Turner will bat. Tying run at the plate in a 2-0 game. Turner 0 for 3 today. Struck out, fouled out, and flied out against deGrom. So Familia with 2 more outs still to get. Gonzalez at second and 1 out. And Turner fouls it back.
Well, that was a pitch for Turner right there. You can see the expression on his face. The ball was up. It was straight. It was right down the pipe.
Yasmani Grandal on deck. Turner had the big game Friday night with 2 doubles and a home run. making an impact in his return to Citi Field. And a check swing foul. That's a big strike for Familia. Now he's up 0-2. In-game box score brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
A lot of offers.
Just 3 hits for the Dodgers today, including one for the pitcher Greinke. Now Familia ahead on Turner 0-2. Target was inside. The pitch was away. 1-2. Gonzalez at second. Turner at the plate. Grandal another tough out on deck. Again the target inside from Plawecki. And again the pitch is away. So he's not exactly at his sharpest right now.
He's keeping the ball down.
Two and two to Turner. And he missed at 100 miles an hour, and now it's 3-2.
Well, you saw he's mad at himself. I just love Familia. He's angry with himself with that pitch. Did not want to go to 3-2. Missed badly.
It's gone from 0-2 to 3-2 against Turner. A walk would put the tying runs on base. Turner drives one to left center. Neuenhuis won't get to it. It's up the gap and all the way to the wall. Gonzalez scores. Turner heads to second. And the Dodgers have a run, and they've got the tying run in scoring position. Back-to-back doubles for Gonzalez and Turner. It's now 2-1. Another big hit back at Citi Field for the former Met Justin Turner.
Just not getting the sinker there, Gare. Got the ball up and down the inner half. Gonzalez can trot in on the double. And they're going to pinch run for Turner. I'll get guys excited.
Well, Jock Peterson wants so badly for the Dodgers to rally after his error early in the game put Greinke in a hole. Turner with a great extension. He leads for a pinch runner. Carl Crawford will run for him, carrying the tying run at second base. So now Yasmani Grandal bats, and Familia finds himself up against the wall. Grandal 0 for 3 in this game. 1 for 11 in the series. This place has gotten very quiet very quickly.
Hush over the crowd.
Familia got a weak ground ball from Kendrick, who made a nice play for the first out, but then Gonzalez and Turner with stinging doubles. Familia has not allowed 2 runs in a game this season. He's given up 1 in this 9th inning.
It is a struggle for him right here. He's not sharp.
And Grandal swings over that fastball. That was sharp.
That was dial it up a notch.
Grandal is grounded out, struck out, popped up. And he lashes one past Uribe, and that'll tie the game. Crawford comes in to score. Grandal holds it first with an RBI single. The Dodgers have rallied for 2 in the 9th against Familia to get this game even.
Well, there is, I know it's a left-hand hitter. You're guarding the line. I'm a guy that likes to guard the line. Most managers today don't. Terry's one of them. And I'm not in any way second guessing. That's his philosophy. It's fine. Dan Warthen's going out to the mound. But I always like to guard the line. That's
fourth blown save of the year for Familia. The first time he's given up 2 runs in a game this season. Gonzalez and Turner with doubles, and then Grandal ties the game with an opposite field single.
Oh, what a tough one. You can see the defense. Uribe, what would you call that, 15 feet off the line? And just by him. Just a little hug, a little closer, 5 feet. Now, you didn't give up the double there, but because Grandal doesn't run well. Oh, well. That's
so 3 straight hits produced 2 runs in the top of the 9th. And now Familia will stay in to face Yasiel Puig, who's 0 for 3 today. And the Mets get some warm-up action going behind Familia.
Ball sinker away. Good spot. But that's just good hitting.
So DeGrom's chances at a win
are down
by the boards.
Down the chute.
Puig swings over the slider, 0-1.
Boy, Puig has just been. Can't touch an outside corner pitch.
Henry Mejia gets up in the Mets bullpen. Jerry's Familia, who's been money in the bank, has stumbled a bit coming out of the All-Star break. The home run to Colton Wong in St. Louis. Now the 2 runs given up in the 9th inning today. Puig pops one foul that'll come back out of play.
Well, they've just been throwing slider to Puig, and Puig's making no adjustment.
The Dodger closer Kenley Jansen getting ready, hoping to have a lead to work with in the bottom of the 9th. Lewicki setting up inside. He's had trouble getting it there, and he doesn't that time either. Oh, it's on the outside corner. Strike 3 call.
I did not think that was a strike, but he got the call.
Manny Gonzalez punching out Puig, who strikes out for the 3rd time today. But Familia missing his target with frequency in this inning.
Yes, he has.
He got the benefit of that one for the 2nd out of the inning.
So rare to see Familia blow a save.
Now Andre Ethier, who's got a history of late inning heroics for the Dodgers. He bats with a go-ahead run at first and 2 out. Ethier 1 for 3 today. And he grounds one weakly to short. Tejada's play will be to first, and that retires the side. A blown save for Jeurys Familia. First time he's given up 2 runs in a game this year. Now the Mets will try and rebound in the bottom of the 9th. Victorious today. Looked like pitching was going to hold up. Jacob deGrom was brilliant for 7 2/3. Jerry's Familia on for a 4-out save, got 2 outs, but gave up 2 runs before he got the next 2. Alex Guerrero takes over at third base for the Dodgers. Michael Conforto leads off the last of the 9th against J.P. Howell. And Conforto takes a curveball for a strike. Michael was hit by a pitch to force in the second Met run in the 6th inning. Became only the second Met ever to drive in a run in each of his first 3 big league games.
Is Turner that slow a runner to pinch run for? I don't believe so. I'm surprised. Now you lost your. This game goes long in the extra innings. You lost one of your big bats. I can see. Well, you're not going to pinch run for the first baseman Gonzalez, who's a slower foot, of course.
But Gonzalez is also a Gold Glover, and you don't want to lose that. It feels to me like Don Mattingly is trying to find ways to get Carl Crawford into games. You've got these high-priced outfielders, some of whom are sitting on a daily basis, and he's trying to get them in. Crawford, though, uses a pinch runner, did not stay in. Howell falls behind Conforto, 3-1. Kirk Neuenhuis on deck. That's lots of right-handed bats on the bench, but the Dodgers are keeping a right-hander ready in the bullpen. Howell worked a 1-2-3/8 and now starting the 9th with the left-hand hitters up. 3-1 coming to Conforto, and he swings at ball 4. 3-2.
And angry at himself. Tough little hard sinker and tough pitch to lay off. Look at that sink. Tough one to lay off. Hey, I like it. Took a rip. 3-1.
Zach Greinke now off the hook after he went 7 and for the first time in 7 starts gave up runs. There's ball 4 and Conforto gets his base. And the Mets have the winning run aboard with nobody out.
Nice at bat.
Now with a lefty in the game, do you bunt with Neuenhuis?
Yes.
Let's see if Kirk can get it done. The Mets have already had a sacrifice from a position player today, Tejada, in the 6th inning. You got Plawecki, a right-hand batter on deck.
You could, because Neuenhuis hasn't played a lot against left-handers. That's the only reason.
The Dodgers certainly are expecting the bunt. Juan Nicasio staying busy in the bullpen.
A big hole down that between short and third.
Conforto at first, not a fast runner. And Neuenhuis was running his hand up the bat handle, so he gave away that the bunt was on as the throw went to first.
He sure did. It's the oldest trick in the game.
So would you take it off now?
You can keep it on, you can take it off, but notice Guerrero coming in tighter at third base. We'll see.
The bunt is on. And Howell with a diving stop for the out. Beautiful play by J.P. Howell. Neuenhuis tried to deaden it, but got it too far in the air.
Well, the most important thing here, too, Gary, is that it keeps the slower runner at first base. If they get the lead runner, the bunt's unsuccessful, as this one is, you normally get the force out. You got a faster runner at first base, and Neuenhuis. Nice base running all the way around, and a nice defensive play by Howell.
So that's going to be all for Howell, with the right-hand hitter Plawecki coming up. Double switch for the Dodgers. Scott Van Slyke will come into the outfield. Juan Nicasio will come on to pitch. Call to the bullpen brought to you by the Honda Summer Clearance Event. We'll be right back. Andre Ethier moves to right field, and so Puig comes out of the game, and the new pitcher Juan Nicasio goes in the 6th hole.
Well, Mets got into that bullpen now. They got past the left-hander. Now they're getting into that little weak area of the Dodgers.
Nicasio, the former Rockies starter, pitched Friday night, worked an inning of third, gave up nothing. He'll come in here to face Kevin Plawecki with Conforto at first and 1 out. Dodgers tied it in the top of the 9th. Mets looking for the response to try and pull it out of the bottom of the 9th. J.P. Howell went an inning and a third, gave up a walk and nothing else. Flores out on deck to bat for the pitcher. Plawecki 1 for 3 today. Looped a single back in the 3rd that led to the first Met run. Well, Conforto scored 4 runs yesterday. Mets only need him to score 1 run today. Mets have had just 4 singles all afternoon. Their last hit was Granderson's leadoff single in the 6th. First pitch sinker misses, ball 1.
What a shame. What a performance by DeGrom, and comes up empty. A no decision.
Well, he did all he could. 7 2/3 scoreless innings, drove in the first Met run. But very familiar. 0 for 2 in save situations since the All-Star break. Plawecki goes after the fastball, 1-1. Kevin 1 for 9 in this series, looking for a big hit in the 9th inning.
That's a final in Pittsburgh, Garrett. The Nationals went down 3-1 to the Pirates.
So Garrett Cole gets his 14th win, first Pirate to win 14 before the end of July since Doc Ellis, 1971. Joe Ross took the loss in that game. That's we'll see Joe's brother Tyson here on Wednesday night for the Padres.
So Washington loses 3 out of 4 in Pittsburgh.
They got Anthony Rendon back from the disabled list yesterday. He started yesterday, went 0 for 4. He pinch hit today. The talent is starting to trickle back in, but not the wins yet. That's on the corner. Nice pitch by Nicasio, 1-2. So the Nats, for all that they've been expected to pull away, now just 7 games over 500. That's with a chance to chip a game off that lead and get within 2. It certainly appeared within their grasp until the Dodgers rallied in the 9th. Now trying to grab it back. Plawecki behind in the count, 1-2, and he lashes one just foul. If it's fair, Gonzalez catches it because he's practically standing on the bag.
It's guarding the line.
Guarding the line or just not coming off the bag aggressively.
Are you trying to say the Gold Glover's lazy, doesn't want to come off the bag?
I'm just wondering which one is it.
I will. Third base is back deep, guarding line. You just can't have a double here. Double, you lose.
Heath. Plawecki waiting on a 1-2. Fouls off the fastball. Two coming, and it's taken in the dirt. The slider from Nicasio, 2-2. Plawecki's just like you. He doesn't step out when the plane's flying on him.
Like Rusty.
Well, these guys are not accustomed to having as many aircraft fly over the stadium as you guys were playing across the parking lot.
Yep. We knew when that plane, what was it, the United going to Chicago every half hour. We knew which one it was, what flight it was.
7th pitch coming to Plawecki. And he just got a piece of that slider to keep the at-bat alive. Well, the pilots liked to fly over Shea because they would tell the passengers to get a look at the game down below.
Yes. Phillies are beating up on the Cubs again. My goodness.
No Hamels necessary today. Nicasio taking plenty of time. 8th pitch of the at bat coming to Plawecki. And he struck him out. High fastball from Nicasio for the 2nd out.
Up and in. I wanted it away on unintentional.
So it's left to Wilmer Flores, who will bat for Jeurys Familia. Flores on the bench the last 2 days with the arrival of Kelly Johnson, who started the last 2 games at second. Wilmer with 10 home runs this year, but it's been a long time since he's hit one out. He's now gone 138 at bats since his last home run.
He's overdue.
Wilmer's had only 1 pinch hit at bat this season. He's been in the lineup virtually every day. Conforto at first and 2 out. And Wilmer takes a borderline strike, 0-1. And Flores keeps the inning going. Curtis Granderson would be next. Nobody up in the Dodger bullpen. So Nicasio will finish this inning. Mets have Henry Mejia again ready for the 10th if there is one. And Wilmer quickly in a 2-strike hole. Wilmer started the first 2 games of this series, went 2 for 7. Oh-2 from Nicasio. And he reaches to foul it away. Again, Gonzalez practically on the bag. If that's a fair ball, it's an out.
Also with 2 outs, Gary, you guard the line for sure. Don't want a 2-out double. Base hit in to your right if you're a first baseman, or left if you're a third baseman. It's just first and third or first and second. Game is still on.
They give Flores a lot of the left field line. And Wilmer takes it high. They're playing him as an opposite field hitter. But if you throw him one inside, he's going to try and yank it to left.
They are certainly giving him that left field line. Van Slyke way in the gap. See on the left to upper left of your screen in left field. That's a lot of line down there.
One and 2 to Wilmer Flores. And he struck him out, and we're going to extra innings. So Nicasio comes in, registers back-to-back strikeouts, and we head to the 10th inning here at Citi Field. And we'll be on to pitch. Mets and Dodgers tied 2-2. success in extra innings, 5-2 this year. The Dodgers also playing their 8th. They're 4-3. Henry Mejia gets the 10th.
Well, Henry has been very good since coming back, throwing strikes. Got the shorter locks this year.
Mejia, like Familia, got an inning yesterday in the lopsided game. Gave up a leadoff double, then struck out 3 in a row. So Jimmy Rollins gets another chance as we go to the 10th inning. Dodgers tied it with 2 in the 9th against Jerry's Familia, his 4th blown save of the season, and the first time he's given up multiple runs in a game. And you wonder, is there any reason to have concern about Familia? 0 for 2 in save chances since the break.
He's throwing hard. It just wasn't. He didn't have his command, Gare.
It is starting to rain. Did you expect it to rain?
No.
They said there was a chance of scattered showers.
Yeah, it's going to be nothing. Tomorrow is supposed to rain, is it not?
So we have a scattered shower as we start the 10th inning. Rollins 0 for 2 and a walk today, and he yanks one foul. A ball and a strike. Scott Van Slyke is hitting 9th in the order. He's on deck. Then Jock Peterson. Some fans who came unarmed head for drier climes. Uribe in on the grass at 3rd against the threat of the bunt against Rollins. And Familia misses up and away, 2-1.
Gare, according to my radar, this is nothing. Forget it. It's all north.
I will take your word for it because you have outflanked me on the meteorologic front.
That's right. I worked hard at it.
You've earned your degree. That's off the plate. Now Mejia behind on Rollins, 3-1. Familia worked an inning and a third, gave up 2 runs and 3 hits after DeGrom went the first 7 2/3 and allowed no runs and 2 hits. And so it goes.
Mets with a chance to pick up a game, get the 2 games behind the Nationals, who lost today.
3-1 to Rollins, and he walked him. So Mejia missing badly on ball 4, and the Dodgers have the leadoff man on in the 10th. And now Van Slyke, known more for his power than his bunting ability, and we'll see what Don Mattingly chooses to do here.
I think he'll swing with him. He's got some pop. Rollins not the stolen base threat that he used to be in his younger days.
He has 7 this year, but he's also been caught 7 times. He used to be a 90% guy. Mejia does not love to throw to first base. Doesn't have much of a pickoff move. And Rollins knows it. Van Slyke up for the first time in the game. And he's up there to bunt, at least on the first pitch. And Henry misses ball 1. Well, those are the career numbers. Rollins, who was tutored by Davey Lopes in Philadelphia.
And by the way, Davey Lopes is part of the coaching staff here, is he not?
But Lopes was the guy who really got that Philly team to understand that you have to be successful 80% of the time to make it worth it.
Davey Lopes was one heck of a player, a very smart player, and a hustler and a winner.
So Van Slyke trying to get a bunt down.
Not trying to disguise it.
And Mejia having trouble throwing strikes.
Got to be careful here now. 2-1, hit and run pitch, hit and run count. Excuse me. So you got to be careful.
Jock Peterson waiting on deck. Dodgers bunch 3 hits to score their 2 runs in the 9th. Turner and Grandal with the RBIs. Now Van Slyke's unsure of the signs and needs a face-to-face conversation.
This you don't like if you're a manager. You're supposed to know the signs. Now, the opposing side's going, okay, did he take the... He's probably saying, did I hit and run? Did you take the bunt off? Got to know the signs.
Lorenzo Bundy, the third base coach, has told Van Slyke what he's expected to do. The runner goes. The pitch is high. The throw by Plawecki not nearly in time. Rollins stays on the bag, and he has his 8th stolen base of the year.
And another bunt.
think he was bluffing the bunt.
So Henry put himself in a little bit of trouble here. He's got to throw strikes.
Tejada keeping the tag on, hoping Rollins' hand would come off the bag. It did not.
Very timely stolen base. Good jump.
Now it's 3-1 to Van Slyke, still showing bunt.
Wow.
And he gets a beauty down. Uribe has to play it. Perfectly executed by Van Slyke to get the lead run to third.
That is a beautiful bunt. Now you got a strikeout guy up here.
In a position where Henry will desperately need a strikeout. Well, you can't draw it up any better than that.
Nope.
Make the third baseman handle the ball.
Very Bud Harrelson-esque.
Make your manager happy.
Interesting. Don, a American League guy, DH, and managing like a National Leaguer. Now you got to see. I want to see what Peterson does here. How his approach is with his long swing.
Well, we saw him his last time up yesterday when they kept the ball away from him. Take one down the left field line against Mejia. So we'll see whether he has the same idea here.
Well, Henry can't fall behind. He's fallen behind first two hitters.
Peterson 0 for 4 today. Infield in with the lead run at third and 1 out. 2-2 top of the 10th. First pitch breaking ball in for a strike. Well, Mejia got in trouble yesterday and struck out 3 in a row. Of course, that was in a lopsided affair. Here, trying to keep the game tied. And Peterson trying to go to left field, fouls it off, and it's 0-2.
Oh, he's got a long swing.
Well, if you're Mejia, you got to trust Plawecki to knock down a breaking ball in the dirt.
Just no more crouched. Just sitting upright as if for a 2-run homer, you need a 2-run homer. I know. There's certain situations where you just need to make contact, and this is one of them. He's just incapable of doing it.
Mejia looking for the strikeout and misses way up high. 1-2. Henry was an effective closer last year, but there were times when he had to walk a tightrope. And he's in that tightrope spot again in the 10th inning today.
Slider.
1-2.
Oh, with a
fastball. Able to make contact. Again, the 1-2. And the cutter misses low and in.
Good eye.
Farnell getting ready in the Mets bullpen. 2-2 from Mejia. And Peterson just got a piece of that.
Jeez, he cued it.
Rollins at third and 1 out. 2-2 game in the 10th. 7th pitch of the at bat coming to Peterson. He just got a piece.
Wow.
The home plate umpire Manny Gonzalez making very clear that Peterson got a piece of that ball, and Plawecki wasn't sure.
Wow. I don't know. I can't tell.
not a reviewable play, and Terry Collins isn't coming out to argue it at all.
Well, he can't, right?
Well, he could make a fuss, but he can't challenge it. So Mejia's got loaded up again. 2-2 coming. Struck him out.
Boy.
Stopped messing around and threw a fastball right by Jock Peterson for the second out. A big one for Mejia.
Well, we're going to do a pitch sequence here. First pitch, slider down and in, perfect. Strike one. Fastball, ball outside, swung at 0-2. A wasted fastball up 1-2. Fastball away, knee high, fouls it off, away. Changeup looked like there, Gare missed. Cued a slider down and in. Barely got a down and in slider tip, and then he went upstairs and got it.
Starts Howie Kendrick off with a slider away for ball one. Kendrick 0 for 4 today. The top two hitters in the Dodger order, Peterson and Kendrick, a combined 0 for 9 today. Got Adrian Gonzalez looming on deck. Rollins at third and 2 out. And the curveball in for a strike, and it's 1-1.
To see so much ineptitude in today's game, getting a sacrifice fly.
Kendrick lifts one to right. Granderson has it measured. Side retired. Mejia gets in and out of trouble in the top of the 10th. Now Granderson will lead off in the bottom of the 10th. Mets looking to yank one out against the Dodgers as Mejia finds his way out of trouble. A triad of hits. Adrian Gonzalez, Justin Turner, and then with the tying run at second, Yasmani Grandal taking one the other way past Uribe and down the line against Jerry's Familia to tie up the game.
And that was a game where there wasn't an extra base hit to back-to-back doubles, Garrett.
Now we go to the bottom of the 10th. Mets at the top of the batting order up against Juan Nicasio, who starts his second inning of relief. Nicasio came in with a man on in the 9th and struck out Plawecki and Flores back-to-back. Granderson 1 for 4 today, singled and stole a base back in the 6th. That's the last hit that the Mets have had. They've had just 4 hits today after a 21-hit barrage last night.
Nicasio's got a pretty good fastball, a little sneaky fastball today.
His fastball's a lot harder than it was when he was starting for Colorado, coming in and pitching an inning or so at a time. Granderson's had one walk-off home run in his career. It came 10 years ago as a Tiger against Cliff Polite of the White Sox. 2005. 2-1. Isn't that rather amazing that Granderson, who's hit all those home runs in his career, has only hit one walk-off home run? Daniel Murphy on deck. 2-2 to Granderson.
You know, in this stage of the ball game, no matter where you are in the order, Granderson's a leadoff hitter. If you're a 2 guy or an 8 guy or a 7 guy, 6 guy, you're like a leadoff hitter here in a game where you want to get on base. By hook or crook, you want to get on base. Start a rally.
Curtis fouls back the slider. Well, Curtis has done a good job of that this year. He's taken the leadoff position to heart. 344 on base percentage, tops on the team. 50 walks this year. But he's also the Mets' best power threat. 2-2. And he fouls back the fastball.
This may be their best right-hander out in the bullpen right here in Nicasio.
Other than Jansen.
Right. I mean, yes, of course.
Whom we have yet to see in this series. They got a complete game from Kershaw on Thursday night. Had a 5-run lead going to the 9th on Friday, and were blown out last night. So we have not seen Kenley Jansen yet. 2-2. Granderson keeps the at-bat alive, and if the Mets have their way, they prefer not to see Jansen at all.
Well, if they're going to see Jansen, they're going to see him when they're down.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yes. Elementary, my dear Watson.
Nicasio's already had some long at-bats against him. Another one here. 8th pitch coming to Granderson. And he lines one into right center for a base hit. Over comes Ether to cut it off. Granderson's going to try it. Safe! Just as he did in St. Louis last Sunday in extra innings, Granderson hustles himself into a double.
Boy, I'll tell you what, great hustle, but very nonchalant by Ethier here. Look at this. Take your time. Yeah, look up. There he goes. You fell asleep. That is not a good play, and it's a tremendous hustling play by Granderson.
Well, we saw it in St. Louis on a ball hit to left center. He does the same here on a ball hit to right center. Now the Mets have the winning run at second and nobody out. 18th double of the year for Granderson, and this was all about the hustle.
Yes, it was. That's smelling a double right out of the get-go, and Ethier opened the floodgates with just very lackadaisical play in right field.
Well, Tejada was able to sacrifice Granderson from second to third in the 6th inning. He'll try and do it again here, you would suppose. Both the corners are in against Rubin, and
got to get it down.
He's going to come out and talk to Nicasio. And Tim Tuffle's going to come down and talk to Tejada.
What are you going to do?
Well,
get the bunt down. Let's go.
You know, in these situations, sometimes if they're going to run the wheel play, you ask your guy to swing away.
It's hard. You're either going to put the bunt on or you're not, and it's your job to put the bunt down. If they put the wheel play on, I wasn't a bunter. You got to deaden it. But I don't care. The ball's coming to you. A lot of times, the shortstop he fakes the wheel here, you know, and then it stops. You know, you haven't got time to detect what plays on.
So all the conversations have halted, and now time for Tejada to try and move the runner. Rubin 0 for 3 in that sacrifice bunt in the 6th inning. They lay down a beauty along the third baseline, and Greinke was fortunate to be able to throw him out. You got Guerrero playing third, Gonzalez at first. They're both in. And Rubin pops up the bunt, and it can't be caught. But Granderson has to hold at second base.
Oh, my.
Gonzalez flubbed it off the end of the mitt, but Granderson had to freeze. And so even though Gonzalez didn't catch it, the runner has to hold.
Nothing Granderson can do there. This is a what, 3-1-4 on your scorecard?
That's exactly how it goes.
Nothing Curtis can do. So the Mets fail to execute. Now you need a base hit.
Murphy intentionally.
Absolutely.
And pitched to Juan Uribe.
Who could? This is always something you've got to cross your fingers here. It's how many times you see an opposing player that's traded from your ball club come back and beat you.
Well, the Mets have already seen it once in this series with Justin Turner's heroics on Friday night. And Turner also had a huge hit in the 9th inning today. Now perhaps the former Dodger Uribe can get the big hit to end this one. Murphy being intentionally walked for the 2nd time today. He was intentionally walked in the 6th inning, and that did not pay off because Greinke wound up walking Duda to load the bases and then hit Conforto with a pitch to drive in a run. And there's ball 4. So Murph goes to first. That sets up the double play possibility for the Dodgers, and Uribe, who hits into a lot of double plays, will come up.
Interesting. Van Slyke going over to Jock Peterson in center to have a chat out there in center field.
Maybe about where to play against Uribe.
Now they know
we're going to get a change here.
Wow.
They're bringing Kike Hernandez into the game, and they're going to take out
really,
or they're going to take out Rollins.
Oh, it's a flip flop.
Kendrick coming out of the game. So they're going to bring the closer Kenley Jansen in to a tie game in the 10th inning. And Don Mattingly making the changes here to try and hang on to this tie in the 10th. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Sixth where the pitcher had been, and Kenley Jansen, the closer, comes in to try and get the Dodgers out of a mess in the 10th.
Well, look at the walks to innings pitched and the strikeouts. This is a strikeout guy. Mattingly really rolling it here, and only got his catcher remaining on the bench.
Juan Uribe up for the 2nd time, struck out as a pinch hitter in the 8th, stayed in the game at third base. Granderson the winning run at second and 1 out. And Jansen starts him off with a cutter for a strike. He'll throw that cutter 90% of the time. When the Mets saw Jansen in Los Angeles earlier this month, he was really struggling and threw more sliders than we'd ever seen. But he's been on a roll.
They're very careful keeping Granderson close at second base. Hernandez real tight on Grandy.
Leaving that right side open for Uribe.
Ooh, good fastball. Wanted it away and beat him in. Big cut. Uribe is never going to get cheated up there.
Uribe 0 for 2 in his career against Kenley Jansen. 27-year-old from Curacao. One of the top closers in the game.
Shallow outfield.
(0-2) coming. And Uribe hits it deep to left center field. Headed back toward the wall. That ball is off the fence. That'll bring in the winning run. Granderson scores. Uribe with a walk-off hit. And the Mets win it 3-2 in 10. His third game as a Met, Juan Uribe has a signature moment.
Well, I always have a bad feeling about someone coming back home to roost. And Uribe clutches out.
10th career walk-off hit for Juan Uribe, his first in 5 years. And on his first weekend as a Met, of this series, they put on a bombardment last night. They blew a lead in the 9th inning today, but they yank it out of the bottom of the 10th, and the Mets win 3-2 to get a split of the 4-game series.
I don't think anybody's catching that ball, but Jock Peterson, I just noted, was playing so shallow. But that was off the base, top of the wall, almost a home run.
It'll go in the books as a single for Uribe. He drives in the winning run, and the Mets get the victory 3-2. And standing by with the hero is Steve Gill. Steve?
Well, standing by with one of the heroes, Curtis Granderson scores the game-winning run today. And Curtis, let's start by talking about your new teammate Juan Uribe. Though this is 3 new teammates this weekend, every one of them coming up big in the last few days. What does that mean to this team to have that infusion and it work this quickly?
Well, it's awesome to get a chance to get 3 guys of their caliber to come in and join our offensive lineup and also defensive rotation. They all can mix and match in a bunch of different spots, and they've all come up big thus far.
For you, you really had a hustle double that set up in that inning. Are you thinking double right off the bat there, or are you paying attention to Ethier in the outfield?
I'm trying to watch the ball, see how they go ahead and field it. Both of those guys throw very well in the outfield, from Peterson and Ethier. Well, let's go ahead and try. Let's roll the dice, and let's see if we can be successful.
Is that your mentality in extra innings? Because we saw this last week also in St. Louis with you.
Definitely, but you still got to read the ball and see how everything rolls, because there's some very talented guys out there, but you're definitely trying to go ahead and get an extra base.
Curtis, congrats on the win. Thanks.
Thank you.
Curtis Granderson coming home with the winning run. Juan Uribe's first RBI as a Met, and as soon as he made contact on that 0-2 pitch from Kenley Jansen, he knew that he was going to get that winning run home. Only question was whether it would leave the ballpark. It came up a little bit short, but Granderson able to walk on in with the winning run.
Well, how about the bench here's reaction? The 2 players that have been traded for, Kelly Johnson and Uribe, have come up in the last 2 ball games since they've been here. Kelly Johnson last night with a home run and 2 runs scored and an RBI, and now Uribe with a game winner.
So the new guys have made themselves at home and helped the Mets to a split with the Dodgers. Game summary brought to you by Verizon Fios. Jacob deGrom was magnificent for 7 2/3. Familia blew a save in the 9th, but the Mets get the win in the 10th after Mejia got out of trouble in the top of the 10th. Juan Uribe, the hero, drives home the winner in the bottom of the 10th inning. Mets win 3-2. We'll come back with more from Citi Field in just a moment.